I see it's recording now. Welcome. This is Todd Hutchison. I'm the president of Central Florida Realty Investors. I'd like to welcome you to the November meeting. We've got a great meeting for you tonight. It's a panel about short-term rentals, and I think you'll learn a lot. We also have a great deal of the month. It's a follow-up from a previous deal of the month where we talked about a wholesale deal, and then we have our member spotlight with Tyler Sloan. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. I'd like to welcome you all.
Glad to be here.
Okay. Again, it's the general meeting, the first Wednesday of every month. If you're new, we have the main meeting here. Right now, everything's online. We hope to be back soon. Who knows? The hospital's not letting us meet in person yet. So whenever we find that out, we'll let you know. Cfri is a not-for-profit business association dedicated to promoting ethical real estate investing and protect and promote the best interests for our membership through educational and networking opportunities, as well as community legislative and public relations. There's your disclaimer. Basically, we don't give legal, tax, economic, or investment advice. Do your own due diligence and hire your own counsels. Want to make sure you know how to reach us online. The best place is the Facebook group, Cfri Online, where the most people congregate. We also have Meetup and YouTube. We have all the deals a month on YouTube, and we have a members only Facebook group as well. And we do a tiny bit on Twitter, but the best place to get your questions answered before meetings is the Cfri members only Facebook group. It's quite active and you can get anything answered you want there. We are a member of the National RIA. It's a group of real estate investing associations. We've won the National RIA Award numerous times. We quit even sending in for the award numerous years ago. We are the only chapter here in Central Florida. One of the benefits of being a National RIA member is our national partner discounts. Home Depot is the big one. You get 2% cash back every 6 months when you spend over $5,000. Office Depot as well is a big one, and some of the other ones. You get 2%, you get paint discounts, appliance program, they have online tracking. All you have to do is get the code hooked up to your credit card or your checking account, and you automatically be eligible for those discounts. I mentioned the Office Depot. You text Cfri card to that phone number right there, which is 888-446-6358. Again, text Cfri card to 888-446-6358.
Sorry, 888. It's 884.
884, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
884, that's a new one on me. 884-446-6358. And you'll get a thing you can show on your phone to get your printing discount. We'd like to encourage you to definitely go to cfri.net and check out our business member directory. If you're looking for a painter, a carpet guy, a trustee guy, title company, I would definitely not use any title companies. They're not part of our group because they know how to treat people right and treat people to do crazy deals that we do sometimes. So make sure you use our member resources, go to the other resources page and use the business member directory. If you are not a member yet, we urge you to please join and use the code FALL25 when you join online, and you get $25 off your dues. So you can do that right online, cfri.net, or you can call Buffy at 407-328-7773. We'd rather you do it online, but if you have trouble for some reason, just give a call and Buffy will help you. I would like to remind you to download our Cfri podcast. We've got a lot of great guests. We've got a couple of cool ones coming up. We're trying to do it about 3 times a month. We're a little bit behind right this second, so look for some coming out real soon. There's some of the people we've interviewed so far. If you'd like to get in touch with the podcast, send an email to podcast@cfri.net. If you have a deal of the month right now, you can send it to either me, president at cfri.net, or Jay at vice president at cfri.net. It's a little bit different because we're not doing it from stage. So we'd love to have your deal of the month, especially if you're a brand new investor, it's your first time deal. We'd love to tell you about it and praise you and learn from your deal. Okay. This month's deal of the month is Mr. Jeff Hardebeck. And you might recognize that address, 1424 Franconia Avenue in Deltona, because we did deal of the month probably 4 months ago, right at the start of the pandemic, when it was wholesaled to Jeff. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. I'm here.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it. And this property sold already, correct?
It is sold retail. That is correct.
Look at that picture. This is one of the worst houses I had ever been in. Every single thing was wrong. I actually went and helped the guy that was wholesaling it and took a look at it, and it was crazy. You can see there's not much wall left there in the and Jeff, tell them how much you had to spend on wood redoing the outside.
It was about $25,000.
$25,000 just on wood. And how long extra did that add to the timeline that you weren't expecting?
Well, between the because we couldn't see from the drywall inside and the exterior wood, we couldn't see inside. And we never imagined the damage inside the walls. And that's where that $25,000 come from, was not in my original thought process, nor the time, because as in most municipalities, they will allow you to replace approximately 25% without pulling a permit. Well, this was way over 25%. So then you get the city involved in pulling permits, and it was about an extra 2 to maybe 3 months on top of the extra 25,000.
Yeah. Okay. Buffy, can you go to the next slide? So if you see that picture on the right, that was after he'd taken out the nasty kitchen, and you can see he had to gut the whole thing, and look how beautiful that is on the left. So this was a 3-3 2-story house in Deltona, if you didn't see that before. Go to the next picture, Buffy, please.
Todd, I might mention there.
Go back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Buffy, if you could, please.
That we replaced over 60 foot of linear wall.
Yeah.
From top to bottom. And if you see in the middle of that picture, there's a 6x6 beam that's supporting the house while we had that wall out replacing it.
That's crazy. And that whole sidewall is completely new.
That's correct.
Completely new. Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, next slide, please, Buffy. Oh. Okay, so there's the facts. You purchased it for $60,000. And if you remember back to the previous deal of the month, you agreed to pay the wholesaler $5,000. So that was your all-in minus any closing costs for $65,000. The code violations are $5,000. That's what you ended up agreeing with to the city?
That is correct.
How did you do that, Jeff? How did you get them from $50,000 to $5,000?
Luckily, the wholesaler had already had contact with the gentleman in the city, so I had a name and a phone number. So I contacted him, and we had negotiated this buy down on this prior to purchasing it, because you need to have that done so you know what you're going to be paying after you take title to the property. And I started at 10 cents on the dollar and they took it.
And did you get that in writing, Jeff, or did you just take the word from who you were dealing with at the city?
No, it was in writing. They agreed to put it in writing.
Okay. Buffy, can you go to the next slide again, please? Okay. So the closing costs there, that's on both sides, I'm guessing, correct?
Let's go back up to the code violations. I think this is important.
Okay.
Now, we never did get the straight on this from the neighbors. Some neighbors said it was vacant 9 years. Other neighbors said it was vacant 15 years. So somewhere between 9 years and 15 years, this house sat vacant with holes in the roof and water pouring in every time it rained, and animals living in this house, and it was a hoarder's house. If you see there, I have on there on city's demo list. The city was about to demo this property and it was going to be gone.
Crazy, right?
Right. That's what finally got the owner motivated to do something, is he was about to lose his asset.
Yep.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. That's great. I mean, I think because it's a learning opportunity, because a lot of people see these gigantic liens and don't know what to do with them, and don't know that you can generally reduce them down dramatically. And I'm guessing the 5,000 was some legal fees they had and some other hard costs. But yeah, so this house, when you walked in it, you could barely, like, I couldn't stay in there very long. It was so musty. You remember
Yep.
how bad that was, Jeff?
Moldy, musty, and only paths because it was full of the owner's stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So you had closing costs of 12,000. Is that both sides, the buy and the sell side?
That is correct. That's both sides.
Okay. And then hard money cost 11,000.
Yep.
Tell us about that. How did you get that? Were they hesitant at all on this being such a nasty house?
No,
Okay.
because I have worked with them for close to 20 years.
Okay.
So they were not hesitant. I mean, they might have had someone with less experience and had worked with them for so many years. In fact, they were supposed to come and look at the house, and they all got the flu the day that we were supposed to look at it. So they actually never looked at the house prior to loaning the money.
That's probably better. That's Connie and Hanlon, right? That lent
Right.
the money on it?
Tom and Connie O'Hanlon, that's correct.
Okay. What do you mind saying what you paid in points and interest to equal that 11,000?
I think I'll forego that.
Okay.
I think that's a personal thing between us that we should just leave it go.
Okay. So repair escrow, what you had anticipated is what you're saying was 55,000 in rehab cost.
Well, I originally anticipated 60. Okay. And I took, I lumped it off because of the wholesale fee at 120,000. You
Okay.
follow me? 60,000 purchase. Okay. 5,000 for the wholesale and 55 for escrow.
Right.
Okay. But I figured it was going to be a $60,000 rehab.
Okay. Yeah. My number was 92,000 if I remember correct.
And
Okay.
one of the reasons that I thought that we could do it cheaper than most is because we have our own crew.
Right. Your son works for you, correct?
Yeah, he is my job superintendent.
Okay. And you mostly deal with Lake County. What made you interested in this property in Deltona?
Well, we do both Lake and Volusia County.
Okay. Okay.
So it matters none to us which county we're in.
Okay. And how happy were the neighbors when you showed up to start fixing it?
Well, the gentleman that kept it mowed, this is interesting. When we went in the house, the power was still on, the lights still worked, and he was keeping the grass mowed, the previous owner. So it's unbelievable that he cared enough to keep the power on and keep the grass mowed, but let the house disintegrate.
Okay.
And I hired the same lawn guy, which was 2 houses down, that kept it mowed. And of course, all the neighbors every day were, when I was there, was always come up and visit with us about, we're glad that something's happening here.
Okay. So from the time you closed to the time you finished the rehab, how long did that take?
Well, I just looked at the dates, but yesterday when I knew I was going to do this, and it was actually 1 day from being 8 months close to close.
Okay.
So, and it was probably on the market 30 days to close. So roughly 6 months.
Okay.
All right.
6 months worth of rehabs. Were there any other surprises other than the exterior of the house? How much wood you had to do?
Yeah. Because of the holes in the house, animals had gotten the house, and they had gotten in the heating and air conditioning ducts. And if you know how heating and air conditioning ducts are made, there is cellulose in between like a hard film, and they had dug all the cellulose out of the heating and air conditioning ducts and made bedding throughout the house. And we didn't know that until the heating and air conditioning people showed up and go, you got a problem.
Okay. So you sold it for $240. How much was it? I'm assuming you put it on the MLS. That's how you sold it?
Yes.
Okay. How much was it listed for?
$240.
So you got a full price offer.
Yes.
Were you worried about getting it appraised?
No.
Okay.
In fact, I think we sold it a little under. I think it would have sold for $250.
Would you have pushed that price had it not been for pandemic?
Yes.
Okay. So you
Okay.
wanted to get rid of it as quickly as possible and you priced it accordingly.
Yeah, and I was afraid of the election coming up and pandemic. I just priced it to make it move.
Okay. So when you had bought it 8 months previous, what did you think the sale price was be? If I can't remember what.
Yeah, $220 is what we thought it would be worth.
Okay. So it went up 20,000 in value and you had 35,000 extra in costs. So
30,000, yeah.
yeah. So not too terrible, not, and most people, a lot of people looked at this house and they were scared.
Right.
Why weren't you scared?
But nothing scares me.
No, but why?
I
Because
guess
this was a
because,
massive rehab, right?
huh?
This was a massive rehab.
It was, okay. And I knew it was going to be slow after we got into it because of the city was going to be involved. See, this was already on the city's radar. There was no way not to get them involved after we started looking at everything. The repair is going to be over 25%.
Yeah, you had to pull permits for everything.
Everything. I mean, we didn't try to hide nothing because, and this is interesting. I got on the first name basis with every inspector in Deltona.
Do you think you got yourself some leeway next time you come up with a problem because you did such good work?
No, I don't think I got leeway. I've got, they will tell me what they expect, and all I have to do is do what they tell me or what they expect.
Okay.
You know, the biggest thing is I hired some subs and they tried to do it the way they thought it should be and not according to the drawings, and they failed. Okay. If you submit drawings by an engineer to the municipality, you make sure your subs follow that, because they will not pass you if it isn't exactly like the prints.
Give me an example of what you're talking about.
All right. An example was with the heating and air conditioning. My contractor failed 3 times.
Ooh.
Okay. The second time that he failed, the inspector, okay, his name was Jay. I know all of them now. Okay. He was inspecting and he hollered at me, and he had his head in the attic in the upstairs. And he says, Jeff, he goes, man, I hate to do this, but I gotta flunk this again. He goes, come here. He climbs down and he has the print in his hand, and he says, you see these boxes, okay, on the print? I said, yes. He says, those are distribution boxes. Stick your head up there in the attic. I stick my head in the attic and I look around and I said, there's no distribution boxes up here. He goes, you got it. Okay. So when I call the sub, he goes, well, it doesn't require them. I said, but it's on the print. You have a copy of the print. Okay. And he was so sure that he was right. He went through the pain of redoing the prints and going back to the city and getting a new set of prints.
And it failed a third time?
And it failed a third time because I don't remember what the third time was. But all he had to do was follow the prints that were approved by the city.
And did that cost you anything extra, or did he have to eat that cost?
He ate it because I said, look, that's not my problem.
Okay.
Okay. And, here's the thing, things like that slow you down, because this didn't fix itself in a couple of days. This was probably a month and a half. Okay. So we have to go do other things while he's trying to get this print to match what he's done.
Did you think about firing him?
No, because he's been with me in a long time. He's a nice guy. He's reasonable, and what I like about my subs is if anybody knows me, I'm very direct. My subs either have to accept that I'm very direct, or they can get off my job site.
Okay. So what did you learn on this deal, if anything?
Well, the biggest thing I learned, okay, is make sure that if you hire contractors, that they are following the prints that are approved. And you got to make it plain, because that costs time and money when you fail.
Okay. Is there anything you would do differently if you did it over again?
Yeah, a couple things. After having seen all this damage on the outside, I would have been less worried about having a sawzall, and I'd have cut drywall out, and I would have cut siding off so I could have looked back behind there. I mean, what the hell was it going to what was it going to do anyways? Already slated for demolition.
You're right. There was holes everywhere. It wasn't like you were messing up a bad house, a good house, excuse me.
Right. Yeah, I would have done a lot more intrusive inspection, okay, on my own. And I would have taken a Sawzall and went everywhere over that house and looked inside. If it had been a block house, you know, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But I could have never believed in there, Todd, you know, if you go into a cave, there's things called stalactites and stalagmites. Okay.
Okay.
The studs were like stalactites and stalagmites. They were hanging, but there's nothing in the middle.
They were just termite eaten, correct?
Between the water damage and the termites, they were gone.
Okay.
And I would have never dreamed that there would have been that much damage in there. I mean, I knew that there would be some damage, but I thought we would be able to repair it, okay, and move on quickly. Not so.
Okay. Now,
So-
did you put in new grass in there? I can't tell from that picture.
Nope.
Okay. You just cut it because it was pretty nasty.
Oh, it was, yeah. And so, and you know, we did a lot of landscaping work, trimming stuff back. Not only on, you know, on the grass, but all, you know, there were, you know, there's trees all the way around us. There was big conglomerations of bushes and hedges. You know, the whole property was just a mess.
It was.
Okay. Just a mess.
I remember one of the people that went and looked at it thought it was going to be 120,000 rehab.
Right. And if you would have had to hire it all done because you don't have your own crew, that's probably true.
Okay. So you took it on because you knew you had the crew to do it.
I knew we had the people to do it.
Okay.
That's correct.
And let's tell him, because I think he did a good job. I think you were happy with him. Who did all that woodwork? It's another CFRI member.
Elliot Grime
Okay.
with now it escapes me what the name is. VE Builders.
Yeah. Yeah. They worked their ass off on this property, didn't they?
Right. And he really didn't even want to come to Volusia County and do this because he doesn't really work in Volusia, but they had some downtime. And so he took it on, and it was a lot longer than either of us anticipated.
Right. But you would probably be more likely to use him in the future.
Oh, absolutely. If he will go where I need him, I will definitely use him again.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good. Okay. I appreciate it, Jeff. There's a good deal. It was a great deal. 62,000 is an enormous amount of money. That's, $12,000 a month. So that's not bad.
Yep. I mean, actually, when I first saw it, I thought I could make 80.
Yeah. You were thinking you were going to make 80.
Yeah.
Todd, we have a question from one of the panelists. Paula has a question. When your AC guys failed multiple times.
Yeah. I
Do you
asked
pass-
you that already.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Got it.
Yep. I saw it. Okay. Well, Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And keep doing deals.
All I need is just like everybody else. Anybody's got a deal, give me a call.
Okay. How can they get in touch with you, Jeff?
My phone number is 407-230-3770.
Awesome.
Or my email is Jeff, Jeff, dot Hardebeck, HARDEBECK @gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it very much.
We have a question on the Q&A. Everybody, if you could use the Q&A for any of your questions, we can get them answered. We'll read them live. and get them answered for you? Do you see that, Todd, from Shauna?
Donna, is there a way to get visibility to a city's demo list? It depends on the municipality. Some municipalities keep a running demo list. Some you just got to call the building department. So every municipality is different as far as their demo list. But yeah, you can definitely conceivably get that.
Todd, I have a list of the code enforcement links to different cities that are different counties that are around Orange County, if somebody wants them.
Okay, super.
And you just click on the link and download an Excel spreadsheet. It has a partial address, like the beginning of the address, not the city. So you have to do a little bit of background research, but it's pretty user friendly.
Okay, next screen, please, Miss Buffy. Okay. If you didn't know, the board voted for November to be all on Zoom. There is going to be an exception this month. One of our meeting locations can hold up to 100 people, and that is the Brevard meeting. So we are going to have an in-person meeting November 17th. Registration will begin on 11/10. So if you go on the CFRI website right now and look in the calendar, it doesn't show up there because that's on purpose. We're going to be limited to right around 100 people. There will be 6-foot distance. There'll be check-in. There'll be no food. So that's the regular Brevard County meeting. We're looking forward to that. Just before you go over there, make sure you check. You will have to register. You will have to pre-register, that is. And make sure after you're registered to let us know if you're not going to show up. So in case we get full, somebody can take your place. You can go to cfri.net to sign up for that on the 10th. So a week from today, right, Buffy? Is that the 10th, a week from today? You're not on, Buffy.
Starting next Tuesday.
Yeah, okay. Next Tuesday.
And there's another Q&A in there. I don't know if Jeff's still on there. Yeah, she was aware of the code violations. Like I said, they negotiated, the wholesaler negotiated the code violations ahead of time. And you see the one above that?
Daniel asked, do you mainly find your deals through wholesalers? Jeff, I think, does a lot through wholesalers. I know for sure, if he's not still on there.
I'm on here.
Okay. So you want to answer that as well, Jeff?
Well, I do buy from wholesalers, but I do a lot of my own marketing. And you talk about my marketing on the back of my vehicles, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
I just bought another house in Deltona. I was stopped at a stoplight underneath I-4 on 46, and a guy got out of his car, come up, knocked on my window, and said, "You got a card?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I need to sell my dad's house." He called me. I just put it under contract.
That's incredible, right?
Right.
I remember going over a bridge and somebody's flashing their lights at me on the bridge. They pulled me over the St. Pete Sky Bridge. They're honking their horn and flashing at me. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? Something wrong with my car? No, they wanted to sell me their house. So it works. Advertising works, right?
Yes.
Okay, next slide, please. Buffy, do you have anything to add to that about the Brevard meeting?
No, you did it perfectly. It's online. You just can't register until next Tuesday.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So this evening, our member spotlight is none other than Mr. Tyler Sloan. Tyler is a somewhat newer member, and he happens to be a realtor. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about Tyler. Where'd you grow up and how long you been in real estate?
I grew up here in Orlando, born and raised, and I got into real estate basically just kind of going through the motions and doing what I thought I needed to do and buying a house, and then ended up renting out my rooms to friends and basically never paid my mortgage the whole time I lived there. And that kind of got the wheels turning about what real estate investing could be. And then I just kind of got obsessed with it, started going to seminars and listening to Bigger Pockets, and eventually sold that house, then totally reinvested everything into another BRRRR strategy is what I did. I bought a house in the first look program. So a HUD-owned home. What's that?
In the what program did you say?
It was first look program. So it's basically Fannie Mae program that foreclosed homes give owner occupants the opportunity to make offers on a house before they hit the general market. Basically agreeing to live in the home for a year before you sell it. So I found a home through that, and just put all the money I made from the home I just sold into that rehab, and also purchased it with a 203K loan to kind of help that as well.
Tell them what a 203K loan is if they don't know, because that's a great product.
It's a loan where basically they lend you the amount to purchase the property, as well as give you a renovation budget to complete renovations that need to be done in order to bring it up to, like a home that you could actually move into.
And how much extra work was that to get that 203K approved?
It was more work for sure, and more hoops to jump through. And luckily I had family friends that were GCs, so they kind of helped me make it a little bit easier than it might have been if you didn't know anybody that was a general contractor. But there's definitely extra hoops, and it was definitely stressful, but absolutely worth it.
Okay. So the first house you bought, how old were you? Because you're a young guy now. How old were you when you bought your first house?
I was 25. I bought it the day before my 25th birthday.
Okay. Awesome. So your family was in, or still are, your family owns an auto repair shop. Tell them about that. Did you grow up working in that shop?
I mean, I worked there for a couple of years as like a service tech, but no, it wasn't my jam. But yeah, Sloan's Automotive right on Michigan in the DeSoto area near Boone.
And your brother works there now, right?
Yep, he basically runs the show, and yeah, he's done pretty great things with it.
Okay. So when you first started in real estate, how long did it take you before you learned about CFRI?
It took me a while. It took me a long while. 'Cause I mean, I'm 33 now, so.
Who told you about CFRI? How did you find out about CFRI?
Through Bigger Pockets, and then they always promote, finding your local investor meetings, and I just hadn't really took the action to do that for a while. So I knew about it for a while, but I just didn't really commit to it until recently. Yeah.
Okay. And do you do deals with other members of your family?
Yeah, currently working on a project right now with my brother. Yep.
Okay. And how's that going? Tell us about that.
It's going pretty good. I think we were cruising really nicely for a couple months. Just now running into our first setbacks. But it's going good. It was a lot of work. You saw the property. It was yeah, it's a big project. But what's that?
What is the setback?
The current setback is so we were doing things with individual permits, and eventually code enforcement came, and they saw that we were doing more than 50% rehab. So they're requiring us to get a builder's permit, I believe is what it's called. So we're still waiting on that to come back. And then also I had a friend of mine who's an electrician who's doing the electrical work, who decided to move to a different state, kind of like shortly after the commitment. So yeah, just having to kind of pause that and find someone else to come in and handle the job has been a setback, and but nothing too serious.
And what do you like best about real estate in general?
I like that there's just like a lot of gains that come from it. So I think my favorite part is that so you can buy an investment that cash flows, and you're getting paid cash flow. You get like I buy it for cash flow, but the things that are also adding up that don't really get factored into until you go to sell it are the appreciation. So basically, you can get into a home for 5% down, we'll say $5,000, and you're getting appreciation on the full 100 grand. So I think that's like a sneaky bonus right there that most people don't factor in. And then also the debt pay down. I think it's just like a perfect storm of compound interest.
Okay. And what do you like most about CFRI? What's the thing that you've learned the most from being a member of CFRI?
I love hearing the stories and the networking for sure. Being able to have so many people that are willing to reach out and come check out what you're doing and give you feedback. I think that has been the most beneficial thing, is kind of hearing multiple opinions and perspectives on different things and different ideas on how to do things is always much appreciated.
What's your goal for real estate? What are you looking for long-term?
My goal is to supplement or replace my working income with cash flow from properties. So basically, you know, like I like the number of $80,000 a year in cash flow.
Okay. And you're a full-time realtor, correct?
Yes.
Which real estate company are you with?
Keller Williams.
Okay.
Mhm.
And do they let you do deals on the side without having to pay them?
Yeah, we get two brokers split deals a year.
Okay. Awesome. What's the biggest hurdle you face right now?
Biggest hurdle, just staying just in it and not getting overwhelmed with how much tasks are on hand, and just keeping my focus and not not running away from all the to-do list that can be overwhelming sometimes.
Okay. So the property that you're working on, let's go back to that for a second. It's a fourplex in downtown Orlando.
Yeah,
Would you do it over again if you had to do it again?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And is it rented currently?
No, it's not rented yet. No. We're still a couple months out probably.
None of the 4 units are rented, because 2 of them were rented when you bought it, correct?
Yeah, and well, the one was had a tenant in it, but he wasn't paying rent. He was one of the previous owners. So that was one of the more stressful things in the beginning, really, just kind of like, because we didn't really have like a solid in writing agreement that he needed to be out by a certain date. So that was like kind of like something that kind of lingered in my back of my mind. But you know, I just was as friendly as possible to him and tried to help him out, and like genuinely try to help him out as best as I could, and it worked out, and he ended up sticking to his side of the commitment, and yeah, it worked out pretty nicely, and we got in there just in time to start demoing everything. It was perfect, really.
Okay. So you're what I would call a somewhat new investor. What advice would you give to those people out there that haven't done their first deal?
I mean, if you're driven to do it, and what you want to achieve is more important than the risk or the weight of the risk that you're willing to take. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty risk averse. Like I don't mind doing risky things, so I think it's easier for me. But yeah, it depends what you want in life, you know. Like if you're okay being comfortable, then do that. But if you got higher aspirations, do what you're willing to do to see if it works out. You know, it's all personal advice. I mean, it's up to you. You can do what you want. Some people are happy, you know, going home, watching TV for 4 hours a night and going back to work in the morning. That's just not me.
Okay. So Tyler, tell them how they can get in touch with if they would like your help as a realtor, or just to ask questions about your fourplex.
Reach out by phone, text, or phone call. I'm available both days, and 407-353-3234. I'm also on social media, Tyler Sloan. Yeah, just reach out. I'd love to connect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Tyler. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, Miss Buffy. Okay, awesome. So we are going to have with most of our speakers tonight are going to be part of our first academy, we'll call it, Creating Cash Flow with Airbnb. It's going to be a live interactive Zoom class. Part 1 will be Friday night, November 13th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Part 2 will be November 14th from 9:30 a.m. And so you can go online, you can do it live online, and we also will be recording it. So you can watch it for a period of time after the event. If you can't go to both things live, you can watch it after the fact. So it's $64 right now for members and $89 for non-members. And that pricing is good through, let's see, I can't see it, through 11/11. So next week, the price will go up to $89 or $114. So we're excited about this class. It should be a great class to teach you how to make some extra cash flow and do the right things with your Airbnb and short-term rentals in general. That's what STR stands for, STR. So for tonight's meeting, what is that for, Buffy? Oh, there's the class.
That's the calendar, just to show people what the calendar looks like.
Friday and the Saturday, and you can sign up at cfri.net. Okay.
And pay special attention to upcoming meetings for November and December because of Thanksgiving and the holidays in December. So
Yeah.
You'll see that there's some canceled ones.
Some of them will be canceled and repositioned and all kind of good stuff. So yeah, go to cfri.net. So tonight's program, we've got 3 great investors, and then Jay Spann is going to be the moderator. So I am going to turn it over to Jay now. Jay, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Appreciate all that intro, and welcome everybody. Glad to have you join us for our talk tonight on short-term rentals. We've got a couple of different panelists here with us tonight, and I thought what we might do to go around, we'd start off by going around and finding out just a quick intro, if you would, on a little bit about you and yourself and how you got started in short-term rentals. And Jennifer, it's all right. We'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. I started really as a corporate housing provider. I never was wanting to do vacation homes, so I've tried to build my business around the business traveler. I also have children that are in college now, so I started doing house sharing or renting rooms in my home, and that has been a real trip. It's 2 very, very different things, but I really do enjoy the business travelers. It's nice to have people that are coming here for a purpose, and I know what they like. I know how to provide for them, and it's working out pretty well.
Excellent. And I happen to know you're also a board member, but how long have you been with CFRI?
Oh, I think since about 2013 or so.
Okay.
I've tried a lot of different businesses and sort of dipping my toe in here and there. And Airbnb, or, it's not just Airbnb, there's a lot of other platforms, and you don't even need to use any platform. If you have, like for mine, if I have direct relationships with employers, I don't even need to use Airbnb. But when we use that term Airbnb, we really mean any short-term rental platform, whether it's Vrbo or whatever. And for right now, this is a good thing for me. My kids are in school. I'm kind of here and stable. I don't know if I'm going to want to do such an active business forever. There might be a time when my husband retires and we want to travel, but right now it's working out really well, and it's a great way to generate cash flow.
Outstanding. Oh, fantastic. All right. Going around my screen, at least the order that it's in. Arcoma, I'll ask you to intro yourself next.
Awesome. So glad to be here. I'm super excited about this. I'm Arcoma Lambert. I've been doing short-term rentals for about 5 years. I've been an investor since 2004, so 16 years there. And so my focus in investing has been short-term and long-term rentals. I've got both. And for me, it was just like, Jennifer, I was coming out of having had surgery and couldn't do my regular job, which was being a doctor. And so I ended up switching over to renting out room by room, and really liked it. Made great friends with people who came from all over the world, drank a lot of margaritas with them, and had a lot of fun. And so I just kept buying houses and expanding. And so, that's kind of how I began to rebuild my empire after being sick.
Outstanding. And how long have you been a part of CFRI? You may have said that. If you did, I apologize.
About 3.5 years.
Okay. Outstanding. Excellent. And next going around in order here for me is Gerri. So good to see you, Gerri.
Hey, good to see you, Jay. It's good to see everybody. I'm really excited to be here.
A little warmer down here?
Oh my goodness, yes. The snow started, so I'm like, Florida for the winter. I'm back. Woohoo! Yeah, so I've been doing Airbnbs. Well, I'm with Alexa Buys Houses, and when she did her first one, I got so excited. It was just such a big success, and I'm like, I can do this. So my first one was about 4 years ago in Wisconsin, and it was immediately amazing. I was booked almost every night in a split level. I just rented the downstairs of the house I was in. Then I came down here and got another one, partnered with Alexa on a few more. And then some of my friends wanted to do it. So I started helping co-host and help other people, and ended up, we've got one now in Minnesota, San Diego. We're opening a brand new one here with like an event experience. It's a bar with a house, a big deck, like an outdoor venue. And then I'm going to launch my Ohio one in the spring. So I love the short-term rental business. CFRI, I think I've been a member a couple of years, along with Lexi's been like 4 years or so, 5 years. Yeah.
Outstanding. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, glad to have you on board. And
Thank you.
Paula, I'm going to get to you in just a second, I promise, but I do have to remind everybody, please use the Q&A panel if you have questions for our audience, because we do want to make sure that this is a very interactive session. I've got plenty of notes that I have here on questions I can ask, but it's not all about my questions. It's really all about what we can do to help everybody out there. So please feel free, like we said, to use the Q&A panel and put those questions in there, and that'll give us some opportunity to make sure that we answer those. And of course, last but not least, my lovely wife, Paula. How about you?
So I guess my experience with Airbnb is actually was my first subject too. And we got into it thinking that we were going to have a different exit strategy, but we overextended ourselves on the rehab. So we just figured maybe we would Airbnb it for a while and get a little extra cash to pay off some of the extra expenses that we had. And it went so well that once we got everything, pretty much down, we decided, let's just keep this going. So, and we've done pretty good doing it that way.
And how long have you been a part of CFRI?
You know that we have a disagreement on that. We've
That's
been
true.
part of CFRI for off and on for many years. I keep saying 2006. You keep telling me I'm wrong. We will one day talk to Buffy and find out who's right.
Yeah, right. All right, fantastic. Well, the first thing I'd like to know real quickly, because this is an easy question, I know some of you already kind of indicated this, but we're talking about short-term rentals. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have done or also do long-term rentals?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, excellent. So there's certainly some variety in there for sure. And for the first question that I'm going to kind of go around with and ask everybody a little bit about is your opinion on, would you say, if for somebody that's out there in the audience right now, is this a great time, or is this the right time even to be getting into Airbnbs? And again, if we say Airbnb, we really mean short-term rental, but that's become kind of one of those buzzwords, like you say Band-Aid instead of adhesive bandage, right? I'm sure VRBO and some of those others don't like that, right? But having said that, would you say that now is a good time or a right time to get into the Airbnb model or short-term model? And I think we'll keep that same order for the moment. Jennifer, let's start with you.
Okay, well, actually, I just wrote an article on this for the CFRI newsletter, so I hope you all will check that out when that's released. But it really depends on where you live. Like if you're in Europe, you're still got travel restrictions, and so maybe that's not the best thing. And some of the big cities, some of those investors that went into the big cities and did a lot of one-unit apartments, they're not coming back quite as strong. But here we are in beautiful Florida, where everybody wants to be. You know, people still travel in Florida. People come here, people leave from here. There's work travel, there's family travel. So, you know, we are very, very fortunate that we have a really great market. You know, our market just bounced right back. Now, we did actually get shut down by the governor. He had an executive order that stopped the operation of short-term rentals for about a 2-month period. But once that got released, and you know, that was a scary time for us. And a lot of people bailed. You know, a lot of hosts gave up their listings. A lot of hotels have closed, you know, nationwide. So right now you've got a scarcer quantity. If you're providing a nice, safe home, you've got a more scarce resource, and you can charge more for it. So now actually here is a very good time to get into it.
All right. Having said that, Arcoma, let's go to you. What might you add to that, do you think?
I've diversified a little bit during the COVID situation, and obviously taken some of my rooms and put either replaced a house manager and put in someone who has a longer term lease so that I can have someone responsible and kind of diversified it that way. I've also added on, you know, the nurses and doctors go through furnished finders. So it's kind of like a more long-term, like 3 months, 6 months contract. So I've diversified with that. And so what I do just room by room, day by day in this economy, 2 of my houses are near Universal, not so much. I would probably diversify and go to a little bit longer, 1 month or 28 days or something like that. But yes, you know, I think it's still a great economy to do it in, because there's a lot of people moving around. What I see is that they want 2 or 3 months. They want to see if their job works out. They want to move. They're on the way to moving here. Lots of people from New York, New Jersey, and other places that are relocating. So there's a market for that we can fit into in the short term and charge a premium. So, you know, being able to have the infrastructure to, you know, include all utilities and do all that kind of stuff, we're already set up for it. If you've been a Airbnb host in the past, you can just slip right into that business model. So I really like it. I have a house by the beach as well, and unfortunately that one doesn't do as well with what's going on. So I just went to like 7-month or 12-month leases on room by room with that.
Interesting. All right, we might have to explore on that. Again, another reminder: make sure you get your questions in. We'll go to a round of those here in just a second and get some of those in. Gerri, what's your thought? For people out there, would you say yes, absolutely, now's the time to be getting into this? Is it great?
Jay, when's the best time to plant a tree? Alexa always says.
Right on.
Yeah, it's been great. Not a lot changed for us. We're even charging more. So everything stayed Airbnb. We did sell one just because we got over what we wanted for that house and knew the people that wanted to buy it. But everything else has been booked. Really, we were down a few weeks, but then it was essential workers. We upped our cleaning protocols. It just kept booking and booking. And like to Jennifer's point, for us, a couple of the places, it's like 80-90% occupancy all the time. We used a pricing tool. So the prices went up far more than I would have charged. That surprised me. I was panicked. Alexa wasn't, but I was, and nothing changed. We're making more money now than a year ago on all the Airbnbs. So we're moving forward with that. I know I won't rent anymore. Lexi has a lot of rentals, but I'm really happy with the, I do a 2-day minimum. That's it. That hasn't changed on any of the places. So it's usually from 2 days to 2 weeks. We get a few month stays, but yeah, I'd tell everybody to do Airbnb. I'm always an advocate for the short-term rental business. So yeah.
All right. Fair enough. And Paula, what about you? What would you advise everybody? Is this something you would say, absolutely, if you haven't done this, you need to check it out, you need to try it? What are your
That was my exact word. Absolutely. If you think about it, when people have to come here, if it's, after a while you have to go on vacation, you just got to get away. Would you, with all this COVID, would you rather stay in a hotel with a community breakfast area, community pool, everything, everything is you're going to be around other people versus your whole family or your, maybe extended family all come together, have your own kitchen, have your own whatever. I think any time is a good time because you've got, in Florida, everyone's on vacation at some point in time during the year. It's either us in the summer or you got the Europeans coming down. So that's always, and then with COVID, you can, even if they didn't like your cleaning, they can clean themselves versus in a hotel. So I just think it's always, if you don't mind the work, because this is not passive at all. I mean, just go ahead and say that right now. You see a bunch of everybody shaking their heads. It's not passive, but it's always a good time.
All right. And I'm going to change the order up and go back the other way. So Paula, starting with you on this question, you mentioned COVID-19, and of course, that's obviously something that I'm sure that's on everybody's mind. And one of the questions that we got in, how exactly does COVID-19 affect the short-term rental market right now?
I can't answer that question because it didn't affect me at all. When the moratorium came out or whatever that was called, I had somebody in there who was on vacation here for 2 weeks from New York and didn't want to go back. She came in and we had her there and she kept extending and kept extending. Finally, her husband told her, you have to come home. But she was there for almost 3 months.
Okay.
And then, we had other people coming in soon after that. Most of them were workers because that's all you were allowed to have at the time, were people that were here, essential workers on. So we really never had any problems with COVID.
All right.
Knock on wood, but we didn't.
Right. Continuing that thought and going back the other way, Gerri, I'll go to you next. Maybe adding to that a little bit. I mean, I'm sure there are some things with COVID-19 because I know I've read like in different places they have to do different protocols or there's got to be some things that are a little bit different. What have you noticed?
Well, I'll start with gratitude because I am grateful we're not across from like the theme parks. In that setting, we do get a lot of, I think, more careful families. I was frankly surprised at how early they started coming to go to the theme parks, but they didn't want to stay in that area and we're out a ways. So I think location was kind of working in our favor. As far as what we deal with the COVID-19, it really hasn't been much. We were quick to follow guidelines. We left masks out and extra cleaning supplies and little cute notes with, use this little bleach or alcohol mix, or here's a special sanitizer, things like that. Made sure all our little treat baskets were individually packaged and kind of ramped up our coffee tea area with more individual packaging, trying to look as professional as we could. One thing I like to mention, it was a cool find on my part for the Alexa Buys Houses operation. We found individual little cute Scott 4 packs of toilet paper at the Dollar Tree. So instead of even having open rolls of toilet paper, and we had a lot of comments and like kudos to us from our reviews that we were so careful with individual wrapping of things, and I was thinking, oh, should we wrap the toilet paper in saran wrap? But the Dollar Tree had those 4 packs and it worked out really, really nice. So not a lot, but I think because we focus so much on the cleaning aspect of it and our locations are amazing, it just really worked out. Yeah. And my
Very
dogs are outside barking.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Very interesting. Arcoma, what else would you maybe say is that you've done or that you see people doing to make people feel comfortable with regard to COVID-19 and being in properties?
Well, I'm not as kitschy or as decorator friendly as Miss Gerri, and I've seen some pictures of some of her stuff. I really admire it. I'm very, very basic as a person and also as a host. And so everything was always super clean, but very basic. I don't have a lot of stuff around, so I don't have to replace a lot of stuff. I don't have to clean a lot of stuff. If you don't have stuff, you don't have to clean it. It doesn't make it beautiful and lovely decorated the way that her stuff is, and probably Paula's stuff is, because she's always a fashionista. But you know, in my world, it was about keeping things as low as I could as far as the number of things I had to clean, and also having it at a higher standard to where it smelled really clean, it felt really clean. You like, there was no way that it could be questioned. And then obviously ending up with having longer stays, and then asking people if they want us to come in and clean periodically. Like, right, in the past, if I had to stay for longer than a week, I would come in and do a bed change and do a what I call a refresh. But actually asking people more often, would you like us to a refresh every 2 to 3 days if we have a longer stay? That way they feel like, okay, this is not a hotel, that clearly it's not at hotel prices also, but we're getting, you know, that feeling that everything is being well maintained and cleaned, and really, you know, putting out little things on the wall that say, okay, use this this way. There's extra supplies here, you know, being a little bit more knowledge friendly to the fact that they're thinking about that and they're worried about that, and it's their first time in the house. You know, if you've been in an Airbnb, you're trying to figure out where everything is, where's this, where's that. And so having a little more pointers on that, beefing up our list of things that we have in the neighborhood and the resources that they can get to, things they can walk to. You know, I had a little downtime obviously at the beginning of this whole shenanigans when the governor shut down. And so I just beefed up that, you know, knowledge base so that then they could feel like they could walk somewhere or go somewhere or get something they needed to, or get to a store very easily if they ran out of something. So just being a little bit more customer friendly in that way, and you know, leaving more stuff out for them.
All right. And Jennifer, going to you, maybe taking the angle a little bit more here from, I know you mentioned the business traveler and the corporate traveler. Do you see anything being any different for that type of traveler in regards to COVID-19? Are you seeing more of them, less of them? What are your comments on that?
Well, you know, when I also had people in my homes when the governor's executive order came down, and if you know, I could still rent to people if they were first responders or under certain conditions. So the biggest thing for us was that we had a lot of cancellations, like about $25,000 in canceled reservations. But then once the bans got lifted, that bounced right back. So, I mean, we have done more cleaning protocols. Airbnb has sort of consulted with the CDC. And so now instead of just cleaning, you come back and you sanitize, you got to bleach everything. You got to go over all the doorknobs and the TV remotes and things that people touch. You know, you do have to be like, I throw out all food. Before it was a question, you know, well, somebody could eat this. Now, you know, anything that's opened, it's gone. You know, things that are packaged, we let people use. But, you know, for the most part, I'm actually sort of amazed of all the people that I've had through. I haven't had anybody that's had COVID. I had one young woman just asked me last week if she could stay in one of my rooms in my home because her brother tested positive and she lives with a big family. So that was a no, because, you know, I need to protect my family's health, and I need to protect, you know, I have a doctor staying with me, and I, you know, I don't want to get him sick and then he goes to a hospital. So you have to use a little common sense. But my homes are actually perfect for somebody to isolate, like if they want to stay away from other people. Or I had a student one time that got kicked last year. They got kicked out at spring break. He had to go back and take all his stuff out, but the students weren't allowed to go back. That was right when COVID first broke. So he had family in town, which apparently was like a loud house. and he wanted to study and he wanted to make good grades. So he stayed in his room and worked hard, and he got delivery. There were so many delivery services. So it's very easy to self-isolate, or even if you had COVID, but the out-of-home ones, as long as you're by yourself or with your family members, it's a very good place to recover, really. But even my healthcare workers that I've hosted, no one has had COVID. So we've been very blessed there. And we provide more, when you do the longer term stays, you have to give people enough tools that they can clean themselves. You at least need to give them a starter kit. So we give them wipes and bleach spray and a vacuum cleaner and, different things. And of course, there's a washer dryer and all that. So, you have to give them the tools so that they can keep the house clean. But it's worked out surprisingly well, given that it's a pandemic and we're hosting strangers.
That's fascinating. It really is. All right, we got a couple of more individual questions here that we'll go through to catch up a little bit on some of the Q&A that's come in. This one was for Jennifer. It said, how did you enter the corporate travel market, and what resources would help somebody if they wanted to start out in that arena?
Well, I started out with it because I actually went to a conference with some other investors who were having a lot of success with Airbnb. And the thing to think about is just that there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I knew that I did not want to be cleaning a house over and over again. I didn't want short-term stays where I was going to have to clean homes, every week, or, I wanted it more spread out. And there's a lot of advantages to working with businesses, especially if you can book directly with employers, because they will pay for everything. Higher rates don't scare them. If the employee damages something, the company just pays for it. So it's a sweet model. And in the course, I'm going to teach in the training next Friday and Saturday, I'm going to be teaching a whole module about business travelers and how to get properties and how to outfit them for those folks, and how to work with employers. So I would say stay tuned, because that's kind of a bigger question. But it's a nice business model that's working well for me.
Yeah, and that's a great point too for everybody that's out there. Again, I know we're not going to be able to answer every question that everybody has, and that's certainly not even feasible in the time we have today, but that's the reason we're having the class. And one of the reasons why, if you have some interest in this and you really want to learn some good stuff from some really knowledgeable people, you definitely want to be signed up for that class. So don't forget to do that. Arcoma, one of the questions that came in directed for you was, why is the house that's so close to the beach not doing well, do you think? They're assuming, like I probably would assume, people that come to Florida, they want to go to the beach. What's your thought there?
Well, you got to remember that we shut down during the summer. That's when I get the most beach folks. And obviously my house is set up room by room. So it's, not a whole family coming by themselves. And so it's, one-offs, two-offs, folks that are coming there for a little bit. So I switched that house to room by room, longer term. So 7-month lease or 12-month lease, and just kind of took advantage of that, knowing that by the time we come out of this shenanigans, that we would end up in a situation where it's at my bad time of the year. My beach house doesn't rent as well during the winter time. So I figured I could do a 7-month lease and get through the summer and the fall and be at the beginning of when things get nice in January, February, and then I can open it back up to furnish finders, Airbnb, roomies.com, all the places that I was on previously, and keep my model, because I was making about, $3,500 a month out of that house during the season. So in my world, it was just a way to do that stopgap. The other houses are in Orlando. They've got way more population. It's not in a small town. So I didn't have to shift like that. I could still stay in the short terms.
Yeah, I like the creativity of being able to change that around and adapt as needed. That's excellent. Gerri, I know you had answered this in the chat, but just in case people aren't looking at it or didn't see it, one of the things you had mentioned was using a pricing tool. Can you comment for a moment on not necessarily which one you use? Obviously, if you want to say that's a good one, that's fine, but more in terms of what exactly that does, because I know for some people, they're not going to really understand how that helps.
Right. So funny, I didn't understand how it worked.
Me either.
Alexa, Alexa forced it on me, and I kind of fought tooth and nail because I'm a control freak, and I'm like, I already have good prices. I know what I'm doing. I'm watching all of our Airbnbs. I've got this. I change prices all the time. I switch it up. I add $10. I take $30 off, blah, 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 on and on. And she made me some kind of promise of, oh, if it doesn't work, we'll take these houses off of it and we won't make you do it and blah, blah, blah. So I was shocked. And I'll use the Mermaid pool house as an example. I mean, on summers, I was getting like $119 a night. The very next day, I think it was like $159 on Friday night, $189 on Saturday night, thanks to Wheelhouse is one of the pricing tools we use. I didn't understand it. I didn't like how it threw me into a little bit of a different format to mess with it a little. But now, well, long story short, the control freak in me has died down just a little bit, and everything is up. Occasionally I'll see, a $99 Monday or Tuesday night. But another thing that they do is a little backwards in my mind. You know how you don't get a booking and you might want to lower the night or try to fill the weekend by lowering the price? Wheelhouse bumps it up, and that's weird, and it rents. So I've gotten some $220 nights, and at the last minute, or a $119 night when I would have put it down at $80. So overall, I'm really happy. There's one in Leesburg that's come down a little bit in the price. And then the one across the street's gone up in the price. But overall, it doesn't make sense to me. All I know is I'm a big new fan now of that. And it is helpful. I don't do the thinking about that anymore. I can focus on other things with the real estate and not constantly be playing with, $3 or $4 or $5 to get that algorithm going. So Wheelhouse.
There's certainly something to be said for the computer being able to watch all of the prices of a lot of different properties and dynamically adjust it minute by minute, second by second, even based on inquiries that they're seeing or the number of visitors to their website, or things that typically we don't have access to that obviously they do. So we've seen that happen. And they show you little graphs and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they did this for what reason? It's been a really pleasant surprise. I'm really a big fan now. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And then one of the questions that it wasn't specifically directed, but Paula, I want to start with you on this one. And it was kind of a topic that was mentioned, I think, a couple of different times, but I heard you guys talking about like signs and directions and things like that. When you have a property like this, a short-term rental, how much do you have to give somebody? I mean, do they have to have a book like at the hotel, or do you have to have signs everywhere, or what do you do, Paul? What's your thought on that?
You don't have to have signs everywhere, but the more signs that you have, and don't just put, you don't need a label, Jay. You don't need a label on everything that says this is a coffee pot, this is a label maker. But when you do signs, and just make them cute, and whatever, that kind of makes it a little bit easier for them. Just giving them tips. Obviously this is the washing machine, but telling them the funky things about that washing machine and how the best to use it and putting it in a nice way, it helps them. Don't overfill the coffee maker. The right here is a good spot, so that you don't spill it all over the place. Just little stuff like that. There's Krista. I don't know how many people know who Krista is, but she puts a little heart on all of her signs. And somebody was cute, and so they made a sign over the toilet paper and said, "This is toilet paper," with a little heart, because she had so many. It just, it helps. But no, you don't have a book. You don't even want to look like you're a hotel at all. I wouldn't put a book together. Unless it's just a book of things in the area. I would not want to look like a hotel. All
right. You made me think of another question too, but I've got one that I want to ask a couple of other ladies here, especially Arcoma. I'm going to start with you. The question was, when you have rentals in your home, Are you staying there as well, or do you have a separate place that you stay when you're renting the rooms out? You know, and I'm sure part of the question there is there any kind of security issue, and how do you feel about that? So, Arcoma, I know you've done that. Let's start there.
Well, I started because I was sick and I lost my job, and we needed help to actually pay the mortgage at that time. And so I was very low energy and what have you. So I had talked to a friend of mine, and they told me about Airbnb. So we started off with one room. And obviously you can manage one room very easily in your house with your family members wandering about, doing what they do, and people coming in and out. Maybe they might be there for a day or 2 days or a week or a month. When you get up to 2 or 3 rooms in your house, then it's better for you not to be there. If you have to, you can put a house manager in place. And I've done that over periods of time, doing this for 5 years. Sometimes I've had a family member be the house member, be the house manager. Sometimes I've had, paid people that have part off their rent. It just depends on what the situation is and the times and what your learning curve does as well. Security issues, never had any, other than the naked Swedes. Those folks didn't seem to understand that bottoms were necessary. But that can be a perk. So, in my world, I never had anybody steal anything ever. I never had anybody harm anything other than occasional thing that got knocked off the table and broke or something like that. Just natural things that were going to happen in your house anyway. And so I didn't feel at all that my personal safety or my family safety was ever at risk. Obviously when COVID came, that became a big concern, me with my background in medicine, and whether or not this was going to go down badly or the way it did, which was actually not so badly. We were thinking at the time, at the beginning of COVID, there was going to be 2 million deaths. We've had, a tragedy of 220,000, but we really thought it was going to be 10 times that. So, I was very cautious at the very beginning. Obviously, when they shut down, I shut down mine as well. And, and I basically had 2 months of downtime during that. So, yeah, I've never had any bad experiences. I've got a few funny ones, which I'll tell during the Friday and Saturday time that, are going to happen to you no matter what, whether you're, doing Airbnb or roomies or, furnished finders or what have you. But, Airbnb is the one that I've used primarily, and they handle things very well. Even when things go shenanigans,
Okay.
they handle things well.
Excellent. Jennifer, what would you say to that?
Well, it has definitely been an adjustment, especially after having very successful outside homes to let people into my house. And I just really had to learn to set boundaries. Like I realized, like my home is lovely and it has a pool and it has a hot tub that's like our therapeutic hot tub. And I thought, oh, I should just list all this. And I quickly realized no one's getting in my hot tub, like that's just gross beyond consideration. So I just had to really set boundaries. Like, here's the rooms that are for you. I don't let them in my laundry room. I'm willing to, actually, I learned this from Arcoma, to offer to, do a load of laundry, wash, fold, wash, dry, fold, and charge them for that. Or they can go out to a laundromat, but that's where I keep my Airbnb supplies. So, and the kitchen has been an issue. And I have in my listings now that if you want to use the kitchen, we need to negotiate that in advance, because you'd be surprised how many people are fine. Just in my rooms, I provide nicely. Like there's a mini fridge, there's a microwave, there's a coffee pot and a kettle. So it's not like I'm leaving them bereft there, but if someone's staying longer term, they might need food. But I do have locks on all the doors, and each guest can lock their door. We can lock our bedroom door, and that's where we keep anything sensitive. On my computer network, I have a separate router for guests so that they're not on, and I'm not the most technological person, and I also don't provide cable television. So you can come in and you need to use your own Netflix subscription or Amazon or whatever. And so far it's worked out pretty well. I've been pretty happy about that.
Yeah, excellent.
Gerri, second, the barbecue grill is definitely, I restricted that. The barbecue grill was open to everyone, and I stopped that little shenanigans there because that was going to go badly. So, yeah.
Yeah, good point. Gerri, have you ever done any of the in-room rentals or? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm listening to these two lovely ladies going, gosh, I lead an unsafe gypsy lifestyle, how I do it. So I stayed at Airbnbs for years before, I think, gosh, before Lexi was even in real estate. And it was those types of places. I'd be in a room at Jennifer's or Arcoma's and probably trying to get in their kitchen. So my first one, it was a split level condo. And I told my husband at the last minute, I'm going to rent the house. He thought I meant when I was away at work with art shows and we weren't in the house.
Right.
But I really meant, yeah, that too. But they're just coming tonight. They can walk in the front door and just walk down the stairs and be on the bottom level. That didn't go over real well. He laid there thinking, I mean, they could be serial killers. We knew nothing about what we were doing at all. And some of the best experiences I've ever had. Hosted people from all over the world. I still miss that because I interacted with all these amazing guests. They did use all my stuff, and I had that same setup Jennifer did with the fridge and the coffee pot and everything on the lower level.
Mhm.
And then somehow we'd have a drink together on my deck, and then their stuff would end up in my fridge. And, you know, again, it was a fun time. I'm going to also turn the Ohio house where I stay in the summer into two separate entrances, an upper and a lower. But depending on that, you know, once COVID's over and sporting events come back and the Cleveland Clinic stuff has a lot of travelers, if we charge what I think we can, we might leave. And I was going to ask that question of the others if they ever went to a hotel, but that's a thought when you can get certain prices for it, just to leave the whole house to them too. So yeah, I've done it. Not as careful as good girls over there, but
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Well, and one of the things I again want to point out is, you know, we're going to have a chance to get into a lot more detail in the class. So, you know, if you want to find out every single answer, because we're getting a lot of good questions in, but, you know, when it comes down to what lock do you use or where do you put a sign or, you know, all of these individual type things, that's what the class is for. So make sure you sign up for the class. You're going to get a lot of additional information. There's only so much ground we can cover here, but we do want to try and hit some of the main topics. And one of the things that I think I would like to ask everybody here, and Paula, I'll start with you on this one, is, you know, a couple of people have kind of asked in general, what's a good property for a short-term rental, or, you know, what are you looking for? And I'm sure to some degree that's going to depend on what you're interested in, but are there any kind of general things that you would tell people? And Paula, we'll start with you.
I really would have told you the closer to Disney or the closer to the beach or whatever would be best. But once I got into it, mine is in downtown Longwood. And I thought, well, the best I'm going to get probably is people for the hospital down the road. But I get all kinds. I've got them because they're here for family reunion. I've had them here for deaths. I've had them here for weddings. I've had them here for sporting events that are down the road on the other side. Actually, I haven't really had any for the hospital, which is what I thought it would be. And Longwood is literally right between the beach and Disney in Seminole County. So that has helped as well. Until you get into it, you just don't know what people are coming down for. I've had them come down again this year. They're here for Christmas and leaving Christmas Day. So cleaning Christmas Day once again. But they're coming to visit with family. And with the COVID, they're coming to see family. I don't know of a specific thing that you need other than make sure it'll rent at rental rate, not at Airbnb rate. But we'll get into that more on that Saturday.
Yep, great point. Great point. All right, circling back around, Jennifer, we'll go to you next. Anything you would say, at least in general, that you might want to look for or not look for when it comes to a good property for a short-term rental?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a house and you're going to open your rooms in the house, or you have a rental that you want to give this a try, then your location is already fixed. But I would say the biggest thing is you need to figure out what your business plan is going to be. Like, who are your guests? You know, how much do you want to be cleaning? Where are these people going to come from? You know, if you're going to do families, you're going to need a big house that can house a ton of people. You want to pack the beds in there, maybe turn the garage into a bunk room. You want a pool. You know, if you're doing business travelers, you don't want any of that. You want smaller. You know, if you hook yourself to Disney, like, I think that's a little bit risky. I mean, personally, I would rather have a more versatile property. But really, the things that I look for when I'm finding new places is I try to find nice homes, and the neighborhood needs to feel safe. It doesn't even have to be like the top A-level neighborhood, but it does have to feel safe. It helps a whole lot if you're by some kind of amenity like a park, or if you're going to be allowing pets. Being near a dog park is a big thing, because people are going to look at your listing and all the other listings around you. And if you say, oh, we're across the street from this great place, or it's a 2-minute drive down to the dog park, then they know that when they're staying there, they've got things to do. Even if they're there for work, they want to recreate, they want to go on a greenway and such. So I would be versatile, but I would really first figure out who my targeted guests are going to be, and then build the Airbnb around that.
All right. And Gerri, what would you say? Any specific things to look for or not look for?
Well, the first thing I learned was, don't just go into it thinking this is an Airbnb forever, or always have a different exit strategy, or it can do for multiple, you know, a rental or a flip or whatever. There's lots of different options. We have everything from a condo to a little mountain house to a trailer or a mobile home, manufactured home. I'm not sure what the correct way to say that is. And they all rent to different kinds of people. So, I mean, I think probably Alexa buys houses can hear me talking right now in the other room. She's laughing at me. Get a good deal on it. Buy it on terms, make a good offer. That's all I can think to say on that. Get the deal.
You're well trained, girl. You're well trained. I love you.
Yeah.
Buy smart. Yeah.
That's a great
It all
answer.
works. It's all good. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tweak that a little bit as we get Arcoma's answer, and let me add to that a little bit. So one thing that we haven't mentioned, and I didn't really lead into this, so it's partly my fault, but when you're looking to do a particular property for short-term rental, there's got to be some things to consider in terms of, can you do a short-term rental?
Oh.
So, Arcoma, let me field that one to you as kind of the roundup of that. And you know, obviously there are some places where this is not going to be an option, right?
Right. So let me piggyback on what Gerri said, because I think that she made the perfect point, and I wanted to make sure I added on to that, is buying right. I work the list for code enforcement and foreclosure and tax delinquent. And what I end up with sometimes is hoarder houses. One of my sub 2s is a hoarder house. And so they tend to have very odd layouts that the general public, you know, pretty house folks would have to take it apart and put it back together again to like. I like that. I like these gigantic, ginormous, extra weird rooms, you know, because then I can put my cleaning supplies in there. I can put stuff in there. It's not a bedroom. You know, the more bedrooms, the better. My one hoarder house, I found a 5th bedroom a week after closing because she had so much stuff in the house that we ended up uncovering an extra door that I wasn't sure what it went to. And then I found an extra bedroom. Literally, I had been in that house 8 times. Yeah, it was awesome. Imagine calling your investor, you know, joint venture partners and saying, I have a problem. You know, I found a 5th bedroom. I think it'll rent for $700 and it has its own private entrance. What do you think? You know, like, that is a problem I want to have every day.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to go through a wardrobe to get to it?
No, but
Narnia?
The back of the garage had that door, and I didn't see that door because she had stuff up to the ceiling in every single room. It was a level 4 or grade 4 hoarder house. So not to the disgusting level of the folks who are buried alive, but right under that, with art supplies. So I love weird layouts. I love non-permitted additions because I can get a great deal on them, and the owner doesn't know how to fix them and thinks it's a bigger problem than I think it is. And so I love that kind of stuff. So to answer your kind of legal ability to do it question,
Yeah.
Depending on the municipality, county, city, and state rules, and then obviously what the governor does in his own, plans, you may or may not be able to do it in a certain place. So a neighborhood that has an HOA, probably going to be a problem. Can you still do it on the down low if you're a fantastic, owner who takes care of things and who keeps your head low and is quiet and never causes a problem for your neighbors? You probably can. I did that for about 1.5 years, but prefer non-HOA areas, obviously areas that are in B or low A areas so that they look and feel safe. And then of course, if you have any way to do an arbitrage of a house where you have permission from the owner, so say you're renting it or master leasing it from the owner and you have permission from the owner, so as much disclosure as you can do, as much permission as you can do, as openly as you can do. And obviously in my personal feeling, I make the house better than the neighbors' houses, so that if they felt like they wanted to sell their house, mine's a better comp, and so it's raising the standard in the neighborhood. I would never do Airbnb in a place that had less than 30%, like road, cul-de-sac, whatever your density you're talking about, of completely renovated houses. And so, that's my standard, is like, if I'm going down a house and it has 10 houses, 3 of them better be fully renovated, so that then the rest do not look quite so bad. And I can still get a good deal in that neighborhood because there's still 7 that need to be worked on. And I might be able to buy 2 on the same street, which I have 2 on the same street. They're 4 houses apart. So then that makes all of the maintenance and what have you really fantastic. But, the main thing is just, get your business license, do it above board, make it better, impress the neighbors, have them thanking you that you took over the crazy hoarder house, and, and then, be the best neighbor you can be, to where you're not letting anybody do wild parties or anything like that.
Well, that brings up a really good point. And that's a good spin to maybe some good stories, bad stories type of thing for a moment. And Paula, I'm going to refer over to you. Obviously, I happen to know a little bit about this one. But when you do a short-term rental like this, what happens with the neighbors? I mean, are they always happy, or are they unhappy? If you had a bad experience, a good experience?
So our neighbor hated the idea. Absolutely hated it. Was very upset when she first found out. She has warmed up to it since then, because she's known that if she's got good people next door, she's got good people. If they end up being horrible, they're not going to be there for long. She knows that. So she's even come wanting to rent it. So, it has helped. She's also the first one to tell me when something's not going right. So that could be good or bad, but still, I think everybody's first reaction is, oh, no. They're because they hear all the horror stories of short-term rentals, but
right.
After a while, they calm down and they see that it's not as bad as all the horror stories you hear.
Fair enough. And where did you want to maybe elaborate a little bit on the Halloween treat your neighbor told you about on that one Airbnb?
So one of my trees has something that looks like spider webs in it, and she has
all over it, right?
Yes, and she keeps complaining about the spider webs because she's getting spider webs. The tree hangs over her daughter's car, and her daughter has noticing more spiders than normal. So we've gone and we've cut down those limbs, and they've come back, and now they're way high. So I was able to get a hold of, thanks to a friend of mine, I was able to get a hold of, I forgot what it's called, a co-op thing with the county and the university. And I sent them pictures of it, asking them if there's something that I can do, because I can't seem to control it. but from what I was able to Google, it looked like they're called tent caterpillars, not spiders. So I sent an email to her with the pictures, and I said, other than the fact that it's a really great Halloween decoration, my neighbor hates it, and I don't know how to get rid of these caterpillars, or if that's what they are. And she came back, she said, yes, they're caterpillars. They will go away once it gets cooler. And she asked me to hang on to my Halloween decorations a little longer. I just passed that on to my neighbor and said, if you've got spiders, they're not coming from the tree. I haven't heard back. So.
Yep. And I'm sure we have some other good stories too. Gerri, what's a story you can tell us? What's one of your maybe worst neighbor type stories that you've had?
That's her daughter.
I'm so likable, Jay. I don't have any bad stories.
All right. But you've had guests that might have created an issue, I'm sure. Come on. You can't tell me that it was all perfect.
Right. I did want to mention, we kind of soft sell it at first. Like, hey, we have friends coming to stay and some relatives coming to stay and families coming to stay. And we kind of ease our neighbors in. We've done that with all the houses. We kind of ease them in. And then we kind of like worm in a little bit more and go, I've had so many people staying here for free. I'm going to do a little bit of rental when we're not around. And I think I'm just going to, and we sell it as, hey, I don't do rentals. I like 5-star guests. They don't punch holes in the walls. They care about their review. So overall, the worst story I can think of, there's just not much. Like, I forget if Jennifer Arcoma said there's no damage. Maybe something gets knocked off something. Mm-hmm. We've never had a party. I think I had a drug addict once and she taped sheets all over the windows. So everything was taped shut, but the place was clean and there was no evidence of that. Like they were peeking and all windows were blacked out. That was strange. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, knock on a lot of wood, there's been nothing that comes to mind. I got one bad review out of all my 5 stars. You've all heard me complain about that girl that picked on the mermaid house. My mermaids were cheesy, she said, and looked like I shopped at Home Goods. And I mean, my feelings were hurt. That's the worst story I could come up with. I had hurt feelings.
That's good though. That's a great example. Arcoma, what's maybe one of the worst ones you can share with everybody?
Well, I would say I had a gentleman who came and he seemed very, very normal for 2 days. I think that's when his medication must have worn off, because he was very clearly schizophrenic, and he was not okay. And obviously I have a background in medicine. I used to do a lot of behavioral medicine, a lot of counseling. That's why I can deal with investors and realtors now, because I have been trained. And so he just started telling me very strange stories, very entertaining. He was, of course, very grandiose, and he was related to all the most important people in the whole wide world. And he was the grandson of so-and-so. And this is, why he was in this Airbnb, because he was just doing research. And it was very wild, my conversations with him. He wasn't harmful in any way or anything like that. He disappeared after about 5 days, and then he didn't come back, like, ever. So I don't know if he maybe got Baker acted and put into a home, because when he didn't come back for his stuff and his room was still with his stuff and I had another guest behind him, I had to call Airbnb and say, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. This is 4.5 years of my life that I've been doing this, and I've never had a holdover tenant in Airbnb. And they said, well, go ahead and clean up the room, pack up his stuff, put it in a secure location. We will keep reaching out to him in every way, shape, or form, sending, Harry Potter's owls or whatever we need to do in order to get a hold of him so he can come get his stuff. And I said, well, he's overstaying, so I need to get remunerated for his time that he's not paying me, because, now it's become a problem in my life, plus the extra cleaning, and all that kind of stuff. And so I ended up they said, well, we can't do a claim on that because there's no damage, but we can do it for the extra days of stay. And so we can actually give you that, but we can't pay you for the extra cleaning or anything like that, because they have $1 million, host guarantee if somebody damages something, but it's not damage. So I did get the extra days, but I didn't get the extra, shenanigans of cleaning and waiting and calling and being on hold and all the fun stuff that went along with that. But, in my, wild imaginations of what might have happened to him, I think he met his grandfather, who was the general of so and such, and he went off into his fantasy land. And so not a bad person to be around at all, very entertaining, but definitely not the best housekeeper. And I was glad when he was gone and everything was cleaned up and I had a new person behind him.
Okay. Jennifer, how about you?
I would like to answer that question, but before I do that, let me circle back to when we were talking about where to locate an Airbnb, because I was remiss in not mentioning that there are, unfortunately in Florida right now, there's a patchwork of it's okay, it's not okay, it's forbidden. Like the city of Orlando has rules and you have to get a permit and you have to live in the house or not. And like Seminole County just put one on that they didn't used to have. So you really do need to look at the regulations, and you need to avoid putting an Airbnb if you have a choice. Try not to locate yourself in a municipality that's hostile to Airbnb, because for someone like myself, I'm doing a rental arbitrage. I'm paying rent, and when I add in all my utilities, my rent, my internet, my lawn care, all that, it takes me about 20 days to make my money. So the last 10 days are the profit. And if they're like, the secret to these things is you have to do trips of 30 days or more. So if I have some gaps, even if I'm doing the 30-day or more stays, if I have gaps between them, I can't fill them. It's just too much regulation and you end up not making enough money. So it's just not worth it. Like Orlando has money and they will spend it on regulators hounding you if you're there. So I say, just try to go in the places where it's not going to be a problem. Okay, back to kind of crazy guests. I've had some difficult guests in my whole house rentals. But usually it's things that I can deal with. I've experienced really more of kind of like what Arcoma is talking about in my room rentals here in my home, because really, if you think of the whole population, I mean, there's a certain percentage of mental illness out there, and the people that can, have a life together and have a mortgage and have a family, they're the ones that are going to do the whole home rentals, and the people that are sort of drifting tend to come into your single room rental kind of thing. So I have had a few people, in fact, I had a gentleman that stayed for 3 weeks and he did really well with us, but now he went on, it's about a month ago that he left and he's missing, and like he went manic or something. And I had a young man come stay. I'm very close to Full Sail University, and this young man just didn't have good executive functioning. Like he came down here wanting to go to Full Sail, which is highly expensive, and he didn't have a plan for it. He didn't have money. He was going to get a job. You don't just work as a dishwasher and go to Full Sail. And he didn't even know that they were all virtual now. So that was crazy. I mean, he came down here with this plan and then he ended up leaving early. And honestly, I think that young man had boxed too much and got hit in the head too many times. And it really affected his mental capacity. And then I had one other guy he was odd in many ways, but the worst thing was this one night from 9 o'clock till literally 2 a.m, off and on, he was screaming at the top of his lungs at people, presumably he's on the phone, but obscenities and just crazy stuff. And it went on for so long. At first it was like, okay, he's had a bad day or he's got one bad thing going on, but it went on and on and on. And that was the one time that I really did not feel safe, because I didn't know how much it was going to escalate. And if somebody is like breaking a social norm, like we all know that we can't scream when we feel like it, and that if we're in a home with other people, that them sleeping or them, functioning, we impact them. And when someone breaks the social contract, clearly, you're not dealing with a full deck there, or you're not dealing with someone with proper consideration. So I got to say that, that those things do happen, and it's hard to screen for that. Like there are ways that you can adjust your settings to try to get the best guess, but whether somebody goes off their meds, that's why in the home, I do believe that one has to maintain very strict boundaries and not slide too much into friendship or confidentiality, because it just turns around and bites you. You just need to stay very professional and very businesslike.
All right. Those are excellent. And again, let me remind everybody, You want to learn even more than this. You want to learn the exact details of things and be able to ask questions of these folks on exactly what you should do or what you shouldn't do and specific examples. The way to do that is going to be to sign up for and attend the class. The registration link is on the front page of CFRI's website, which of course is www.cfri.net. And Buffy even put a link in the chat there that you can use as well. So definitely make sure that if this is something you're interested in, something you want to do, something that you think you want to do, you want to learn more about, here's your chance to learn from a series of experts that have all kinds of great experience, background, and knowledge that they can pass on to you, and do it for a very, very reasonable price. Going back to some of the questions that have been asked here for a moment, one of the questions said, I've heard that there are changes in the works for Airbnb. We can't really go into all of those obviously right here. We'll go into those at the class. Is there anything that any one of you would want to call attention to right now as a big change that people should be aware of?
Yes, Airbnb is about to require that you agree, if you're going to have a listing on Airbnb, I think it's November 20th, sometime soon, you have to opt in to the cleaning protocols that they subscribe to, and you're supposed to wear a mask and wear gloves and, follow their protocols. So there's that. And also Airbnb has been sort of threatening to become a public company. I mean, they really took a beating this year. I mean, when COVID hit, back in, I think it was April, they laid off almost 2,000 people, which was like a quarter of their staff. And, it used to be really nice. Like if you got to superhost status, you had a dedicated helpline and you could call and they'd say, hey, superhost, what do you need? And like it would direct you in, and now you call up and it's like, what do you want? Like it's very hard to get service from them. So, like Airbnb has been good while it's good, but it is a company and it could flake out at any moment. And that's why you really need to be versatile when you're planning these things. You need to consider other platforms or getting off platforms, building up your business enough that you don't need them. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And if you do it, you need to consider that it could blink out in a heartbeat. That's just the nature of the business. It's a very fluid, evolving business.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. We've mentioned Airbnb, and we know there are some other platforms. Of our group here, of the four of you, who has used something besides Airbnb? Okay, Arcoma, Gerri, Jennifer, you all have. Arcoma, let's go to you for a moment. What other platforms have you used, and were they good, bad experiences? Would you recommend them?
Furnish Finders is good. It's for mostly nurses, doctors, techs, people that are on some kind of contract work. So they get 3 months or 6 months on a contract. They mostly 99.9% of them have pets. And so you better have a pet friendly house because you just won't get any bookings. Otherwise, I figured that out very quickly. And so I put in $1,000 worth of fencing in the back with a 6-foot fence for dogs so that they could, the nurses and what have you could have their pets. And that was like magical. Roomies.com. So I've done a few different platforms. I haven't done VRBO because I don't do whole house. I do room by room. So I have to stick to the ones that do support that. So yeah, I've done a couple of them, and I would say, that's been the best. And I second what Jennifer said about being flexible and being able to move from platform to platform, not letting them own any of the any of the information while you have people in your house, getting their contact information, building your own database, and making sure that you are always in control of your own business, because just like Facebook or anything else, you can be banned. I've seen videos of people that have been banned off of Airbnb and it collapsed them. So, be a smart business person, take this seriously. It's not play. You can pay your mortgage out of a room or two of your house, and that can be fine. But, own your own information, build your own database.
Great. Gerri, how about you? What other platforms have you used, and what was your experience?
So Guesty, and I wanted to comment on the travel nurse site. I have never gotten a booking with them. I've tried super hard. So Arcoma, we're going to have a separate conversation later about that, me and you. So I've utterly failed at that. But the Airbnb is the best for us. I did want to touch on the last question about what the changes are. I just thought it was a good time to insert this for all of us on this panel. Rob Arnold does a great job, but we should all be at every meeting, of course, for any city council meetings, any state meetings. We try to go to a lot of those. I know many of you have gone to those as well. I think that's important as changes happen and come down the road. So I highly encourage that. And then reaching out to any of us, we're always here to help with everything as well. So yeah, we're Airbnb people, 90%. So yeah, keep all that in mind.
All right. And Jennifer, what was your experience with some of the other ones?
I have been with Verbo for my whole house rentals. That's vacation rental by owner, and they don't do rooms, but they do whole homes. Verbo is a little more expensive. Like from the host standpoint, Airbnb charges 3% of the gross rent, and Verbo charges 8%. I don't know if Verbo charges a smaller percent to the guest. I mean, Airbnb nabs the guest for like 15, 16%. So I'm not sure from the guest standpoint, but from the host standpoint, it's more expensive. And I just don't get as many inquiries and such from them. So I've drifted more to just Airbnb. I have tried booking.com/Expedia. That was horrendously bad because you could not, like, the good thing about Airbnb is that you can set parameters, and people, if people don't meet those parameters, they have to inquire. They can't just insta book on you and you got that reservation. But on Expedia, it's like any of those hotel sites. So they don't, I mean, my homes are nice and carefully made and carefully maintained. And I'm not some cheap hotel room that anybody should be able to book no matter who they are or what kind of guests they are. So I'm very uncomfortable with that. I did think originally that travel nurses and doctors would be my mainstay, and they really have not been. And things like Furnish Finder, I just find that the price expectation is too low. Now, I'm not saying that someone couldn't design an Airbnb to meet that market, but I designed mine a little bit higher. So it has not worked out very well. And the travel nurses that I have gotten have found me on Airbnb. And I think that if I had like room rental for that or 1-bedroom apartments, maybe that would work out price wise, but you know, they're looking for like $800 a month for a furnished apartment, and that doesn't really exist in Orlando. So, you know, I've looked at a lot of them. I'm on insurance sites, you know, people that put in a claim and they need to move out of their house while their house is getting fixed. I mean, I've tried all these different angles and not any of them have been really that great. Airbnb really has been the main one that's been dependable.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You mentioned the insurance thing and people moving out because their house is being fixed and whatnot. I know Paula and I were a little shocked. Like 2 days ago, our neighbor came over and knocked on the door and said, "By the way, we're moving out." We're like, "What? Oh, no. We're going to an Airbnb for a month or two because we're having our whole house renovated."
Wow.
So you never know what somebody might be doing or where they're coming from or going to, and certainly I know it's been a surprise to me, maybe some of you as well. But the number of times that you'll get a booking from somebody that actually is local as opposed to somebody that's out of state and whatnot. So there's a lot of reasons somebody might stay for sure.
I do watch those local ones. Like if someone has an insurance claim, that's okay. But if somebody's local, I'm asking way more questions. I need, you know, positive reviews, because why do they need my house? You know, maybe they're going to trash my house because they don't want to trash their house. So I mean, locals can be great. Like right now, I've got a guy that his wife's a healthcare worker. It's her birthday. He wanted a 4-day little staycation to do something special for her. But you got to screen if they're local. That's a red flag.
That is a great point, and kind of one of the things I actually was trying to lead into is there's something to watch for when somebody just says, "Oh no, I just want to rent it for one night," and you know, like, wait a minute. Yeah, you may say, well, you know, 2 people are allowed, but you don't have a whole lot of control over how many people are showing up and what the house is being used for and so on. Have any of you had any issue? Go ahead, Arcoma. I'm sorry.
I had what was almost to the level of a home invasion one night. And so one woman booked, and as you know, with Airbnb, you have a limit on number of people in your room, right?
Right.
So I have a bunk bed in that room with a twin on the top and a full on the bottom. So technically 3 people could be in there, and I have it open for 3 on Airbnb, and all things are good for years, literally years. And this happened just last year, so about 4 years in. And about 11 o'clock at night, knock on the door. One person at the door. I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. Come on in. Let's get you settled. Let's do the whole tour. And then another, and then another, and another, and another. And so 5 women with the most luggage I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Them and their luggage would not fit in the room, number one. And number two, at 11 p.m., there were at least 3 of them were schnockered. And so, it's very loud and very crowded. And I proceeded to speak to them about, okay, well, I just want to let you know, I want to make sure that I get you taken care of, but this is not going to work. And I'm direct like Jennifer is. And so I've got excellent boundaries. I'm going to call Airbnb right now and get you a place that's appropriate for your guest size. And, they started raising Cain. And I can go toe to toe with people. I am not afraid. There's no single part of me that's ever been shy. And so it came down to calling Airbnb and physically pretty much chucking them. And they were chucked within 30 minutes. Airbnb was fantastic. They're like, okay, we're going to call on their cell phone. We're going to pay for a hotel for them for the night. And so Airbnb actually paid for a hotel and got them out of my place. I was a super host, so they knew that losing me is worse than losing these folks who are breaking the rules. So yeah, that was concerning for about 30 minutes. And I was glad they handled it the way that they did. But 5 physical bodies and the luggage would have never fit in that room at all. So
wow.
They were thinking.
Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to circle back and start with Jennifer on this question. This is one that Todd had posed in the chat, and he said, what percentage increase do you average with income over a traditional lease?
I'm not enough of a landlord to answer that question, I think, but I can tell, here's my secret to doing Airbnb is that I don't own the property. You do not have to invest $250,000 in a beautiful home to do Airbnb. So it is difficult to get landlords to understand because there is this misconception that everything's a vacation rental, everything's a party house. But I find landlords, and I can go into detail during the class on how you do that, but I find landlords who are interested in my business model and happy to do it. And my original goal was to make at least $500 a month, profit on this. And now it's up, like now it's usually closer to $1,000 or more. And like Gerri was talking, I just started using that wheelhouse pricing tool. And that thing, like I knew what my units would bring, like I knew what price I could get. But I didn't know that in January through April that I could jack those prices way up high. And what Wheelhouse does is it automates a lot of things. It does a lot of the work for you. So you're not having to go in there every day and adjust your pricing depending on what's going on. But it prices out really the whole year like a hotel does. And certain days are way more than others, and they have reasons for doing that. But if I'm actually going to make the money that Wheelhouse has my calendar booked out to be, that's going to be even better. Sometimes I have to say that I have gotten as much as like $2,000 a month profit on one of my homes in particular. That's just a fantastic place and in a lovely area. But maybe some of the other people could speak more, that if you've done more landlording than I have, maybe you could speak to that.
That's a good point. Paula, I'm going to go to you next. What's your theory, if you have one, in terms of if you were renting some of these properties as a regular landlord versus doing Airbnb? What do you feel like you're getting double that, 3 times that, not as much? What do you think? You're on mute.
I would say in the past, we were getting almost double. Our next door neighbor was renting the house, and we actually went over there and looked at possibly doing some type of arbitrage next door to ours. He ended up getting about half of what we were getting at the time. Now it's a little less. It's more than 50%, but not 100% more. And that's not including the expensive. That's not take home cash flow. But the difference between what he's renting it for and what we're getting is, I would say, 75% more.
Okay, so not quite
That's-
double. Yeah,
that's
I've seen some numbers. I was looking right before we did this, and I've certainly seen the average that people quote, like Bigger Pockets and places like that, saying somewhere between 2 and 3 times the rental rate. And then Gerri, I'll go to you next, because I know you put in the chat 3 times what you rent it for. You find that to be true as a blanket statement or as an average, or what have you seen?
Well, so I was just kind of overthinking it, and I would say average, definitely 3 times. Somebody said, I think it was Jennifer, like one of the houses has a swimming pool and everything. In the winter, that one's getting $5,000 in a month for the snowbirds. So and I'd say it'd be a $1,200 or $1,300 rental. So that is even up to 4 times as much. On a bad month, or if something went wrong, it's still doubling. I shouldn't even use that language, not bad, but it's
Double. Well, so that's terrible.
I know it's
right.
just, and it's just, to me, it's so much easier than tenants, and we have cleaning staff and stuff. So I'm not doing that. And it's,
Yep.
it's
And
good.
that brings up another good point. We've had some questions there about, do I need to have this? How do I have to clean it? How do I have to do this? And again, I'd love to answer everybody's question that we have, but remember, some of this stuff you're going to get at the class. So don't forget to go in there and sign up for it. The link is in the chat. You can also go to cfri.net. Arcoma, how about you? If, from a rental standpoint, straight rental standpoint versus doing the short-term rentals, do you see it getting 2 and 3 times that, or what are you seeing?
Well, during the season, so to speak, I've got 2 houses in Orlando near Universal.
Okay.
I was averaging $932 per month per room. And so that house would rent out for like $1,500 just, on a lease, a 1-year lease.
Mhm.
And so I would say I was easily getting 2.5 to 3 times. The beach house has its own season, has its own like 4 to 5 months where it's going to be 5 times. And then it's going to have some worker bees who are there. Boeing is putting in it's near Merritt Island and all that area. So Boeing is putting in a bunch of, infrastructure for the space program and all that kind of stuff. And so they're doing a lot of work out there. So I've gotten some contract workers that'll stay a week or 2 weeks at a time. And so I can get a good rate from them. But in general, there's a more downtime out there because it's so close to the beach that, who's going to the beach, like say right now when it's colder, other than to be romantic and walk on it, it's not really very useful because the water's too cold. And so it depends on where you're at. And so my Orlando ones tend to, in general, over a longer period of time, cash flow better. But if I did 6 months on or 5 months off, that sort of thing, I could rock back and forth between someone with a 7-month lease and do the 5 months only of Airbnb when the beach house is best. That would be the best of all worlds. I would get 5 or 6 or 7 times the normal rent, if I can do that. And that was my original plan. I just bought that house 1.5 years ago to do that, and then COVID hit. So then it was like, okay, well, let's just switch to the 7-month lease and just wait this out for a minute.
All right. Going to some of the questions that were back in our Q&A there. And rather than answering this one necessarily specifically, we'll kind of go to make it a little bit more general. But the question itself was, I've got a small apartment that doesn't have a washer and dryer. Do I have to put one in to do short-term rental? Let's broaden that a little bit to how do you find out the things that are required? And Paula, I'll start with you on this one. What types of things did you find you had to do, or how did you figure that out?
Let me think about it.
All right, Jennifer, we'll go back up to you.
Well, again, I think it goes back to what guests are you trying to attract? You know, if it's people for very short stays, then they may not need that. I would also want to know if there's laundry facilities nearby. I mean, when I have people in my personal home, they're not using my laundry facilities unless they're paying me to do it. I'm not letting them into my laundry room. In my whole house rentals where people are staying for weeks or months at a time, they need a washer dryer. So it depends on how you design your business and who your guests are. And consider that when you do an Airbnb listing, it's going to say what the amenities are. So if people do need that and you don't have it, you know, that could impact your, you know, how much you're booked. But you just have to figure out who you're renting to.
Okay, excellent. Gerri, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've traveled so much that I almost did our business model over how we like to travel and in the Airbnbs we've stayed in, and I just sort of winged it from the beginning. But for us, it's like, what would I want? And I just kind of generalize after that, as well as we have to have laundry in every single one because we have cleaning staff and they have to start sheets and laundry and all that. So winged it would be the short answer.
That's fine.
That's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Arcoma, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I'm a clean freak, so I want to make sure that I always prepare for them to be able to clean. And I feel frustrated when I go to places and they don't have it. So I usually don't ever use a hotel. I just don't. I almost always use my timeshare, which is a resort, and they always have washers and dryers. They always have a broom. They always have stuff like that, because I don't want to wait a week for the maid service. And I wouldn't want anyone else to do so either. And I want to encourage them to be able to clean and have everything be washed and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So I would say, you know, thumbs up on anything you can do that's going to make their lives easier to maintain your place. And it's going to give you longer longevity on bed linens and everything else if you give them access to that. So if you don't, then I think you're missing an opportunity for someone to help your staff out of cleaning. And if you are the staff like I am, then I want to make sure that, you know, I give them a chance to help me out and I make the conditions pretty clear.
And one thing that I learned from Alexa and Vinny is to put some kind of robot vacuum in, because it's sort of a hard thing. Like, you know, do you make people clean when they're paying you and they're paying a cleaning fee, or do you let a house go for a month and it's disgusting when you get it back and it's down for a day while you're cleaning everything? So one compromise was to have those robot vacuums. So that's something a little bit more fun. They can go under the beds and get places you can't get to easily. And that has worked out fairly well. Most people enjoy using them. So that's one thought.
Good point. Very good point. All right, Paula, we'll circle back to you. You got any more you wanted to throw in on that one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as the washer and dryer, it's almost a no-brainer for the price. You don't have to go out and get a brand new one. Facebook Marketplace, you can get them a whole set for $500, and you know, it makes it easy for you or your cleaning staff if you're lucky enough to have that, versus, you know, throwing it in, whether you change the sheets to a new set or you wait for those to wash, is, you know, depending upon how much time you have. But as far as Airbnb and anything that you have in the house, Airbnb has got quite a big list of what you have to have. And then there's more if you're a super host that you have to have. But anything like that, it's pretty much a no-brainer. I would just go ahead and do it. But do you have to have it? No, as far as the washer dryer. But having that sets you apart from a hotel. You provide something that the hotel doesn't for the same price as a hotel.
Yep, that's a great point. And I like that you pointed out, because it's the one thing that I'm kind of familiar with is that many of them say, you know, there are certain things you have to have, whether it's a hair dryer or an iron or, you know, just little things that sometimes you may or may not think about. But there's a reason that these companies have these lists, because their guests are expecting to have certain amenities, even little things like, you know, it may seem like a no-brainer that you would have to provide internet access, but sometimes people getting into that business don't think about how important that is. So yeah, there's definitely a way to find those out. And again, we will cover more of that in the class, and you'll get a lot more detail on that. One of the questions that came in, and again, we'll kind of spin this a little bit differently, but it was talking about, how much is my particular property going to maybe rent for? But while we can't speculate necessarily on any one particular property, and I know that some of you will talk more about how pricing will work in the class itself, does anybody have any particular advice on how to at least estimate what a property might get? Let's say you want to get into doing this, but you're not even sure, if I buy this property, what could I get? How would you start that process? And Jennifer, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, I think if you, well, first of all, you can try the pricing tools. There are things like, there's a site called AirDNA, and it has a bunch of data. I really haven't subscribed to that though. You can just go in that neighborhood, like do a search on Airbnb and see, what other properties are renting for around there, and get an idea. And yeah, you got to run the numbers, and you need to think of your startup costs as well. And again, if it's too expensive to buy a property, you might look at renting one instead. You just have to find the right landlord, and it's a lot smaller investment to get into it, to start cash flowing, than it is to actually buy a property.
Okay, Gerri, how about you? What do you do if you're looking at a property and thinking, would I want to make this a short-term rental? What can I expect to get from it?
So we do use the airdna.com, Jennifer, but we use that free version. And we've gotten good info off that free one. And then, so interestingly enough, because I've got the San Diego gal and Minnesota and here, and a lot of people ask us all the time, how do you know? I actually just go on Airbnb as if I'm a traveler. I switch over from hosting to traveling, and I put everything into Airbnb, and I pick a different week in each month. Sometimes I pick holidays. I do like my own little fake spreadsheet, so to speak, of 10 choices, 2-bedroom, 2-bath houses with a pool, for instance. And then I'll check different months, different prices. What are they getting? I'm helping someone set one up right now in Virginia Beach, and he was terrified. And it was all about, I'm like, look, and I started just screenshotting him all the houses around his area within a half a mile that were similar, that were, he thought he'd get, 500 a night, but turns out those houses were like 175 a night. So he's still excited after he saw, then what percentage they're booked, how full are they? But it's really taking my time. I'll take about an hour and just look at, as a traveler on the Airbnb site. That's my main way of doing it.
Okay. Arcoma, how about you?
I would piggyback on everything that Gerri and Jennifer said, but I wanted to look at how often they're booked, like she said, and make sure that they have enough reviews. It's easy for somebody to cut their price at the beginning and get a few reviews and kind of get started, and that's a good strategy. But when I see somebody who's been at it for a few years, they've got longevity, that they've got a few, bookings. In my case, I go room by room, so per week, and so I'm seeing that their reviews are regular, that they're getting 2 or 3 reviews a week. Not everyone leaves a review, but at least 60% probably do. So you can kind of guesstimate how many actual guests are getting, and then do the math on that, whether or not that makes sense to you. And do you have other, like, I like weird layouts and stuff like that. Do you have other rooms in the house that you can do, other stuff with? Do you have storage room? Do you have all that kind of stuff? Is there a space in the back for an RV? Can you have that as an extra room? So I start thinking about cash flow and all of that, and add-ons, like what she was saying with doing the laundry. So, there's a lot more to this than just the room price if you look at it from a holistic perspective. And so if they've got a lot of reviews and a lot of consistency, I might take their room price as being the right one that would match mine. And then I add on what I would add on that they don't do.
Okay, good strategy. Yeah. Paula, how about you?
Basically, what they're saying is the same thing. I mean, you go to AirDNA, you're going to comp it just like you would any rental or anything else. You're going to get comps, and you're going to look, and you're going to see what they have versus what you have. We have one that's around the corner. It's an Airbnb, but I also know she lives there. So she puts it out there every once in a while. And I look at her rate that she's getting. Hers doesn't have a pool. Ours has a pool. So I usually just try and tweak it up just a little bit more than that. But another option you can do is you can look at the hotels around. If you've got a 4-bedroom home and you would go to a hotel that has like a residence inn has a little kitchenette usually. I'd go a little above that, the hotel price, but lower than two of those rooms, because you're getting the whole home. So you're getting 2, 3, 4 bedrooms plus that big kitchen. Let's face it, these people are going to look at the hotels too. So, and they're going to look at other things for rent in the area. So,
All right. And I'll stay with you for this one because I know early on you mentioned the whole idea of this is not passive. How much time does something like this take? Well, you know, for our audience, obviously they'll be able to, again, learn more at the class, go sign up. But you know, how involved is it? Is this something you got to do all day long every day, or, you know, what kind of effort is involved?
so it's going to depend, obviously it's going to depend on a lot of stuff. If you're doing 3-day rentals versus monthly rentals, it's going to have a lot to do with it. Like Gerri she's got someone who's doing her cleaning for her. But even then, Gerri, you still go and get stock, right? You're still the one who's stocking it up. So there's gonna be something that you're having to do. I finally, Vinny helped me realize that my life was not supposed to be for making beds 3 times a week. To the point where now I do have somebody cleaning, but do I go back over there the day before they show up just to make sure everything's right? Yes. And we have a pool, which it's great to have a pool for rental, but it really stinks when you have a pool. And I'm the type of person that even if I had somebody come clean it once a week, if they're not going to clean it on the day that my guests are arriving, guess where I'm going to be to make sure that there are no leaves in that pool when they walk in the door. Now they can dump on them 10 minutes after they get there, but when they arrive, I want it to be just so. So
Okay.
it's not passive. You don't just sign a lease and walk away.
Okay. All right. Gerri, what's been your experience?
Well, I once again got to credit old Alexa buys houses because she's got multiple staff in place now down here. So when I disappear for the season, I don't do anything. So we'll send the secretary to get once a month Dollar Tree and supplies and blah, blah, blah. We got a pool guy, we got a lawn guy, we got multiple cleaning people now. So they come and go. We've upped our cleaning fees. And you know how we love to make bunk beds. I know Paula does. Those are gone. So that's some good news. To the point of how long does it actually take? Like, it's not passive. It's a real split. So it just depends on the actual rental. And then the getting it ready, prepping an Airbnb, you know, everything that goes with that can be quick or it can take a couple months. So I think once you get the right systems in place, if you are running it as a business and you've got multiple Airbnbs like we do, it's all about getting the systems in place. And we're just close to having it all, just a little bit closer. We're getting there.
No, I think that is absolutely a key to obviously any business operation, because the systems are what enable you to not only continually do it right, do it the same way, but replicate it from one property to the next and so on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we want them in place so we can travel. And go everywhere.
There you go.
And they can do all the work.
Arcoma, how about you?
So obviously I'm room by room. So I might have 1 or 2 or 3 check-ins or check-outs that same day. I budget about 15 minutes per room to clean. And so, you know, everything from vacuuming under the bed and changing the linens and doing all that kind of stuff is pretty easy because it's just a room. My regular house cleaning is no different than whether or not I would have somebody in my house or not. So whether or not I'm doing the bathroom, and, deep cleaning it once a day and then kind of doing a touch up, 3 or 4 times a day. People think there's a bathroom fairy because I clean the bathroom so much. It's like, oh, that bathroom's always fully stocked and it's always fully cleaned. Yeah, I understand. We have bathroom fairies. And so it is a high intensity cleaning job. And you have to figure that out, whether it's staffing or yourself or your family members or whatever that is. My daughter's grown up with Airbnb now. She's 12 and she's been doing it for almost 5 years, and so she's now as good as any house manager. And so it's a fantastic training for a child. And she understands how to turn everything over and restock everything and how to check everything. So I would say you need to budget at least. They have to check out by 10 a.m. and I have the check-ins by noon. And so I budget that 2 hours. And if anyone knows me, I'm not a wake up in the morning person. So I'm not gonna wake up before 9:30 or 10 anyway. And so, yeah, I'd say budget 2 hours of your time if you have people in your home and you're doing room by room, especially if you have 2 or 3 rooms. But, you might be making $900 per month per room, or more during the season. So it absolutely compensates.
All right. And Jennifer, over to you.
Well, I'd like to really emphasize that this is a very active business. I mean, like right now, here I am doing this with you guys, and I've got a guest that's arriving and he couldn't get in, and I had to solve that problem. I mean, you're basically on call 24/7 because, even with me, with my longer term people, even if I don't have to go there and clean, but like once a month or something, still you're getting inquiries, you're getting bookings. Airbnb is judging you on how quickly you respond to those things. So you've got to answer people's questions. I really, really partner or a co-host because you're just going to need it. Like one person can't do everything. I tend to stay up late. And so I've had people, contact me. I even booked a guy one time at 11:30. I let him come in. He was racing greyhounds or something. It was an odd situation, but people will, even 1, 2, 3 in the morning or 6 a.m. in the morning, like you got to sleep and you got to have a life, but you got to consider that it's a communication business, it's a customer service business, and you need to prepare for, like, the weekends. You get a lot of inquiries and a lot of communication. So there's that, and then there's your cleaning time. You can outsource things again if you want to design your business more hands off, and you train a cleaning person that's happy with you. One interim step you can do is you can outsource the laundry, like go in with another set of sheets and towels, take the dirty stuff out and take it to a laundromat so you don't have to do it yourself. Like there's ways to do better as far as not having as much time, but it depends on how much customer service you want to do and what level of business quality you want. Some people don't worry about being super hosts, and maybe the quality of their service is a little bit less, but the volume is more. So again, it really just depends on how each individual wants to run their business. There's a lot of flexibility, but it is for everybody labor intensive and attention intensive.
So that brings up an interesting question in my mind, and that is, anytime that there's a manual and labor intensive process like that, and for anybody that doesn't know, I happen to work in the IT security industry, and one of the products that I work with is an automation product, and the whole idea is making the manual steps automated. So how does automation play a role here? And Jennifer, we'll stick with you for the moment. What types of things do you find? I know we've mentioned like the robot vacuum, but I know there are a lot of other things that some I know about, some I'm sure I don't, whether it's door locks and whatnot. What types of automations can really help this be a little bit less manually intensive?
Well, the things that I like a lot, I love the door. Like I'm not as techie as say, like Gerri and Alexa and Vinny, but I have quick set locks and I can program in up to 20 codes on there. So that is really nice. You can have the person coming in, like the last 4 of their phone number, and you can have a couple extra codes in there. If this guy could not have figured out how to use his code, I could give him another code. So I like the locks. I like the wheelhouse pricing tool just because I'm saving so much time going in and saying, oh, I've got this vacancy, I've got this gap, should I lower my prices? Like, you can set rules about things, and you can, well, it gets complicated, but it's just a good thing that ends up getting you more money. And if it's a bad time of year, it's telling you that. So you don't waste time, trying to get prices that you can't get. And then in the good times of the really strong times of year, it will get you more than what you thought you could get. So I'm really loving that. Other than that, I just think you have to figure out, like, if you want to do your cleaning or outsource it. Do you want to cut the grass? Do you want to outsource it? You just have to figure out your own business. And there is a certain trial and error period, like probably your first 6 months, where you get your systems down.
Yep. Great point. Arcoma, what about you? Any automations, things that have really been beneficial?
No, none at all. I'm so old school. I'm letting people in my house. I put my margarita mix in the ice trays. Is that automation? Because I don't want it to water down my margaritas. I want to make sure that the mix itself is the ice cubes, or you can put those in the blender and make it nice and slushy. I mean, I literally have no automation. I mean, the front door has a coded lock, like Jennifer said.
Right.
I have a fake, an absolutely 100% fake for $14, like a camera over the door. It has a little fake light and everything. It looks like it's awesome. So, I mean, that's my security system. I have a bulldog, so, he's going to lick somebody to death. And so, I have it right on my ad, if you don't like dogs, you're not going to be welcome here. Sorry. He lives here. You don't. So yeah, I don't have any automation whatsoever. The washer and dryer, that's as close as I come to automation. I'm old school. I'm Excel. I'm email, I don't do that.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. I think the whole margarita mix is probably system rather than automation, but still it's a system. So
okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Gerri, I know, because I know some of the things that Alexa has taught me and Vinny has taught me. So I know where you're sitting in that realm, but tell some of the folks out there, about some of the automations.
I got an ice maker for her margaritas.
There you go.
So I'm laughing because I'm much more like Arcoma. Alexa has forced it on me. I had a quick set lock, and I didn't know how to program it. So my code was 1, 2, 3, 4 for the first 2 years I was in the Airbnb business for every single guest. That's how trusting I am. But we're on August locks now. It's a great, I love it because it emails each of the guests and gives them the code, and then we can look in it. It's on the little phone app. We love the Ring doorbell. We've got that on every one of our houses. And I think the coolest, of course, we've got the Roombas, the auto cleaners and all that. The coolest part for us is, and this was to someone's point, Jennifer, about it can be a 24-hour job, and communication is very important. But the Airbnb app itself, along with our Ring doorbell and our August locks, which is connected between Alexa, myself, a secretary, and occasionally we'll bring in another co-host that we're training to get their Airbnb started. We'll all share that time. So we all know I'm up at 3 a.m. because I'm old. And then it's way past my bedtime. Somebody else would be answering right now. And then in the middle of the night, somebody's up. We catch these a lot, but I'm not doing it. We'll take the sound on and off. So for me, the best automation is sharing all those apps. We hear the Ring doorbell go off. We can even see if a guest is struggling, and we can yell through there, hey, I'll get you a new code, stuff like that. So those are my big 3 would be Ring and August Lock, and then sharing that app together and working together.
Yep. I definitely, from the little bit of the automation I've seen between Airbnb and some of those products and how well they've made that work, I know it can be
awesome.
a big benefit. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Paula, what would you add to that? You're on mute.
Other than those, the Ring doorbell, I don't have one for mine, but I have seen other people to get in. They have to go to the Ring doorbell. They have to show their ID so that the owner can look and see that the person that is on Airbnb, the picture matches your photo ID. And if there's 3 people that are supposed to come in, they can see 3 people, and they're not going to see 5, 6, 7 like Arcoma had. And then this, I'm with Arcoma. I don't know whether this is automation, but when it happens and I don't have to get out of bed and go over there, it's automated to me enough for me. But we keep a lock, like a lockbox on the side of the house. So if they forget their code or whatever, this happened more without the August lock in the past, but if the August lock die, the batteries die, because they do, they can go to the side of the house. They don't even know it's there until there's a problem. And then I tell them, go to the side of the house. There's a coded box there. You can get an actual metal three-dimensional key and use it the old-fashioned way. And that's real nice when they call you at 11:30 at night because they've been out and now they want to get in the house and can't.
All right. Yeah, I think I might call that more of a system than an automation, but still, again, very critical to the planning and the things that make this work and make it work very smoothly for you. Speaking of making it work very smoothly, one thing that we talked about earlier was, did you have any horror stories? Why don't we change it up a little bit? And as we get ready to close it out here, talk about maybe your best experience that you've had with an Airbnb or short-term rental or guest, but something that would be very encouraging to our audience who I'm sure if they haven't already signed up, they're going to go sign up for the class right now on cfri.net or using the link that Buffy put in there. And Gerri, we'll start with you. You always have a fantastic story every time I've ever talked to you. I'm going to start there because I know you have one.
I got so many. I really do have a lot of good stories. But highlight reel, I've been the most touching thank you cards. I've been given flowers. One guy left a cake for me. I got a gift card once for $100 to go to one of my favorite restaurants that I recommended to them. And then people I've had, like back when I was sharing the house, when I first started, the most incredible people from around the world. My favorite set of guests was an Aborigine tribe from Australia. Wow. And they came up to the door and I totally freaked out. They were all like 6'2", 6'4", 6'5", entire face covered with tattoos and like big hair, the coolest, nicest people. But when I saw all the tattoos, it just like Post Malone, but more tattoos. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know they were from Australia. It turns out they were exchange students coming back to visit the family that hosted them. And they'd been here in that area years before. Just the coolest group of people. They included me in some stuff. They did chanting things and just, it was neat. It was a cultural experience I've never had before. And yeah, they stayed in touch for a while and they came back and it was pretty cool family or tribe, I guess they called themselves. So that was the best one.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Arcoma, how about you? What's one of the best experiences you've had?
Well, my favorite people that ever stayed with me was during my first month of being an Airbnb host. And we didn't quite have all the systems dialed in. And so, you do what you do. You get, 3 people showed up when only 1 booked. And because I didn't understand how to set all the room parameters and all that kind of fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And there were 3 young Italian men, 22, 23, each of them. And they were fantastic. They went out to the parks during the day and they came home at night. And of course they wanted to party because they're young kids. I'm in my late 40s. I'm, pushing 50. That's not really, what I have on my mind at 9 p.m. So they would start cooking at like 11 p.m. This is back in the day, I let everybody use the kitchen and what have you. And they would sit there drinking a beer on the stools, cooking and arguing in Italian about whose mother was the best cook and why, and how they did their cooking and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like fascinated. They've got music on, they're arguing about, cooking, the smells are coming off. I'm like, okay, I'm joking. Okay, so when do I get my plate? They're like, oh yeah, we'll hook you up. So every single night for a week, I waited up until 1 o'clock in the morning because they had to do it, all the sauteing and all the whatever shenanigans that is, because I don't, have that big of a routine on cooking. And so I was literally waiting for my plate until 1 o'clock in the morning. They were time shifted or what have you. And then they were telling me all of these stories because they spoke English and Italian, but they argued in Italian. And, we just drank beer and had Italian food every single night. And I was like a hand-fed bird waiting for my plate. So those guys will live in infamy in my world, because they would tell me all the stories. And some of them were pretty raucous, and I have a really good sense of humor, and it can get a little bit difficult to keep it clean. And these guys were way over that. And I was like, I love you guys. You guys are fantastic. So yeah, and this was almost 5 years ago. So yeah, I remember them quite well.
I think you're making me hungry, actually.
Yeah. Authentic Italian food right there.
Yeah, right. Paula, we're going to go to you next, but hold on 1 second, because I did want to throw in a question back to Gerri that somebody asked. Gerri, they said, what's the name of the app you mentioned? It's not any more specific than that. So I'm not sure if we're talking about Wheelhouse, or do you know of another one?
Wheelhouse, the August locks, the Ring doorbell,
Yeah.
or just the Airbnb app. I think that's all I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I
can't think of
couldn't
anything
think of any others, but I wanted to throw that in while I was thinking about it. And if we didn't get to any of your questions, some of them were either too generic or they're a little too specific, and they're going to be answered in the class. We did answer quite a few of them. I think there's only 2 or 3 we haven't gotten to so far. Paula, back to you. What would you say is one of your best experiences?
I would have to, for the one person, I would have to say it was a couple that came down, and they were here for at least a month. And after he was here for a week, the guy sent me a text message through the app and said, hey, if you will bring me a rake, air filters, some other stuff, and paint. He's one of these people that can't sit still. And so he painted my shed. He changed out the filters. He raked up all the leaves. He cleaned the pool every day, because I don't have a pool that's screened in. So the leaves were falling, and he just wanted to do stuff. So he cleaned that. That's my one specific one. But my favorite thing about it at all is we have this chalkboard, and I usually write welcome, enjoy your stay on it. And I got to give a shout out to Gabriel for buying this thing to decorate the home with, because that's my favorite thing in the whole house. Because when they leave, they write back to me, and some of them are just so sweet. And that's one of the benefits of Airbnb. When's the last time you had instant feedback, nice feedback from your long-term tenants? We're always getting praises and stuff, and thank you for this and thank you for that, and that's the best part of Airbnb.
Excellent. All right, and then Jennifer, I think we're going to wrap it up with you here. And what's been your best experience?
I'm going to argue that the best part of Airbnb is that everyone pays in advance. I love that part. Notes or tenants that, that's all a promise to pay, but here they pay in advance, and it's awesome. I have had lovely guests as well. I had a lady that went to a yard sale and bought a bunch of glassware for us, and we put that in the Airbnb. And I had a lady come down to compete because she had bees for the first time, and she was competing in honey competitions, and she left me honey and honey cakes and all kinds of cool things. But I think my favorite group, just because of nostalgia, I had a group of graduate students from the University of Georgia come down, and it was probably about this time of year. I mean, to me, it's cold. It's a little cold for the ocean, but Georgia is cold. So they went to the ocean. They just had a really good time, and it was like a good bonding time for them. Like, it was just a special thing. I know that's going to be a memory that they will always keep. And they left some nice gifts. They left me a little Georgia Bulldog drink holder thing and some Christmas cookies, and they were just really sweet. And it just like brought me back to that time of my life, and I was just really happy to meet them. So that was pretty cool.
Outstanding. Well, let me take a moment and give all of you a round of applause, and thank you very, very much for being participants tonight and answering all these questions. And again, let me remind everybody, if you really want to know everything else there is to know about short-term rentals, you got to sign up for the class. The link is in the chat. you can go to cfri.net. And then Buffy, you're back. So what else can we finish up with here? You're on mute.
Muted.
We all do that, don't we?
All of us.
Mute. Just sign up for the class. It's going to be awesome. These gals are really so knowledgeable. And then we also have Vinny, who's going to be joining us as well. The agenda for the 2 days is on the web. You can see it. Sign up for our upcoming November meetings. Right now, we're doing everything except for Brevard County via Zoom. So you can sign up for those. Be sure and watch the calendar for the Thanksgiving holidays. Some meetings are happening, some of them aren't. Some are changing days. Same with December. That kind of gets to be a crazy month. And we can all hope that maybe January, the magic wand's going to happen and we're going to be able to see each other instead of looking at each other right now. I miss you guys.
Too.
Yep.
Everyone, and I learned stuff from the panel that I didn't even know, and obviously I got to up my game on this whole technology thing.
Always changing, that's for sure. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us. And again, make sure you sign up for that class because I think it's a fascinating part of the industry to learn more about and have a chance to be involved in. You can add it to your repertoire. Failing that, hope to see you again soon in another class virtually and whenever we can, back in person. Thanks again.
And one other thing, if you came in late, if you came in late, we will have a video replay up. It'll be on the event, on today's event. You'll go back on the calendar to November 4th and look at today's event. At the bottom of the page, you'll be able to watch this in its entirety.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buffy.
Thank you.
Great meeting.
Bye, ladies.